Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right, and it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Hey girl, where are you gonna go now? Wait, don't step on my keyboard. No, no.
Hello, little girl.
Go lay down. Go lay down.
Dude, it was me.
It's me, Jessica.
Yeah, that movie is underrated.
Yeah, we've been having an Adam Sandler movie marathon over here, so like Rob Schneider is in all of those fucking movies.
I love
it's kind
Rob
of
Schneider.
like it's Adam Sandler madness in Jersey right now because he's filming here. So
I wonder
weird.
how long he'll be there for.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, I want to show you what I've been painting.
Let me see.
I've not rediscovered. I'm trying to use gouache.
Ooh.
I drew a spooky fish.
An anglerfish!
Isn't
Yo,
it spooky?
Yours is really fucking good. Did I ever tell you when I was in Ducray art school, I was in this children's book illustration class? Oh my god.
Aren't they cute?
That is so cute. Yeah. Your illustration style reminds me of, what's that movie studio? Leica. They did like Paranorman and Coraline and Kubo.
Oh, wow, that's a big compliment.
You're a very talented artist. Mine did not look that nice.
I copied from Pinterest.
In art school.
It did not come out of my brain.
We did this story called Don't Turn Out That Light, Mr. Anglerfish.
That's
I had
cute.
to do like a 24 panel story about this stupid fish.
Wow.
Probably still in my parents' attic somewhere. I'll have to dig that out.
Anglerfish. So remember when that anglerfish like surfaced and we were like, oh, they're not that big.
Yeah.
That was a baby. They get up to like that big.
Okay.
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
So back to being scared of the ocean.
They're so ugly. They're the ugliest
They're
fish.
so ugly.
Yeah.
Except when they're babies, then you're like, oh god.
Oh, look at the little flashlight. And yeah, that's horrifying.
Fucking sucks. But there's no rain. Dude, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, this weekend, 100 degrees.
Ooh.
They're calling for 100 degrees, 3 straight days in a row.
We've had so much fucking rain. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I think that storm, that flood that we had that took out my car I think that was the last time that it like rained like that.
Is the ground solid or is it squishy still?
I
don't know.
I haven't touched the ground lately. I need to touch some grass. I've been so out of sorts. I feel like my life has been turned upside down.
You've had a rough ass
month. I'm done with it. But you know what? I'm gonna choose to be the Sagittarius and rise above the ashes and become a phoenix.
That's right.
Reinvent myself yet again, because now I think I made up my mind the next car that I want. So now I'm gonna save for that. And I have ideas. So I'm just gonna say that.
Okay.
Have
Like
some
ideas like Maserati ideas?
No.
Mercedes-Benz, Lexus
No.
ideas.
No.
You don't have to tell me. It's okay.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna let it simmer for a bit.
Yeah.
It's in the shop though. I am gonna opt to get the engine fixed.
Yes.
So that I can continue to have my no car payments, and in that like 3 to 5 years we're estimating is like probably gonna be like as long as this round is gonna last me until then I have to, get another car. And I want it to be like a car that I actually want. I don't want to buy a car under pressure and just get something because I needed a car last minute,
Yeah. And you might not be nannying the same
I know.
kids or age group, you know, when that change happens.
Yeah, so many factors, but I would rather just like not have a car payment right now and then just focus on paying down my credit cards, and that's my priority right now. So I was like, yeah, I'm getting money from insurance. Let's just fix it and slap a band-aid on it, get back down the road and call it a fucking day. Let's go. Let's get a move on. All next week, it'll probably be in surgery.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, in the last episode, we kind of did a like taps, like da da da, wasn't really R.I.P. Jetta just yet. So that's nice. It's coming. It's pulling a Jimmy and coming back from the grave.
I told you it's the and I'm renaming it Phoenix.
Cute.
Never had a car name up until now, but now I think that needs to be it. I think I was calling it Snowflake for a while because it's a white car.
But is it a River or is it a Joaquin?
Probably a Joaquin, because River didn't come back.
Make it.
He didn't make it. So R.I.P. River. But yeah. Oh, that would have been a good play on words though, because it died in a flood.
That's true.
Like some really dark twist on it, but I think at this it was River, but now it will be Joaquin.
I love that. It's not Jetta, it's Yetta.
It's Yetta. Not Yetta.
Not Yetta.
It's better.
Oh my God.
Because it's gonna be better.
We are too much this morning. We're
And
gonna
I
keep
could
my water.
sit in it and eat my salad with the feta.
You probably did hear my Wisteria Vine message. I sold my bike
Yeah.
and it was sad letting it go, but I wasn't riding it a lot here because it wasn't really comfortable. It was just the first bike, and Aaron and I went on a last ride together on Friday, and I just had a little moment, like driving through the sunset sunflower fields, and I was like, if it wasn't for this bike, I would not really, I don't think I would be with Aaron, because that was just how I got around. What did we do? So that was Friday. We took our little ride and I was like, goodbye. I kept saying goodbye to it. And Saturday we drove up to Charlotte and looked around at the cycle center, and like he's pointing out stuff it's nice. It's nice. Hondas, Kawasaki's, Triumphs, like they're fine. But I have a style and I'm short. So like it has to be something I can touch, and it has to be like something not everybody has. So we kind of left. I was a little disappointed. We were going to go to lunch, and right next door, there's a building right next door. It's like Euro Cycles or something. So they just sell like Italian bikes. And I was like, whoa, let's stop in there. And the bike that I found was right outside the front door. It's my color. It's the perfect size. They were calling it, get this, they were calling it Frankenstein. Did I tell you this?
No.
Remember, I'm like, I love that book. I love that book all last year.
Yeah.
Because they had it at the shop for so long that they ended up like changing the tires to be like kind of knobby tires, and they changed the exhaust and they changed the clutch and all this stuff. So they were calling it Frankenstein. So I'm going to call it Frank, but it's Italian. So would it be Franco or Francisco?
Yeah. Francisco. I like that.
So I want to
Italianate.
Yeah. I want to get a little like Frankenstein keychain. But so that was Saturday. We put in like a hold on it. And then Sunday, Aaron and I drove to Asheville, which is like 2.5 hours away. Sold the bike to the kid. This kid must have been in his 20s. And he said he rode dirt bikes, and he said he rode like e-bikes. And Aaron like lets him sit on it. So we're thinking like kid's ridden before. He gets on it and he kind of starts taking off, and he's trying to stop using his feet. And I'm like, Aaron, you better take care of this. This kid's never ridden a bike before. So I just kind of like put my face in the truck. I was just like, please take care of this. So Aaron rode it around, showed him how to ride it. He was like, this is going to be my first bike. And I said, well, if you don't have a girlfriend, you're about to. Like, this bike is going to get you so much pussy. So he ended up buying it. For a second, I didn't think he was going to take it. He had a lot of questions, which is good. Part of me was like, oh shit, is he not going to buy this bike? He did. Yeah. Aaron got his tattoo of a raven. It's like big.
Nice tattoo.
It's beautiful. It's kind of like ink splotchy, very artsy.
Yeah.
But we were there all day, long drive home. That was Sunday. And then Tuesday we went back up to get my Frankenstein and brought it home and took it for a ride. And it's freaking awesome. So now it's in my garage, and it's just like, it's so different. It's very cool. I love it. And I feel very in tune with my air element when I'm on a bike, because it's like
in through the hair. And...
but
that's awesome.
I had to get some protective gear, because I used to just ride in like jeans and tank top and a helmet. Yeah. And Aaron's like, no, you need to wear your jacket. You need to wear your gloves. And I bought boots and I got some pants, because like that's cheaper than a hospital bill. And there's just so many. You think about all the used bikes that are sitting out there, that how many people have passed away that, those bikes.
Be careful on that. I know. Like Avi used to ride, and like, I have to be honest, that's probably what attracted me to him. I was like, oh, he's a bad boy. He rides bikes. He's got a Firebird. He plays guitar. He's all the things. Yeah. And then like I pegged him down, and I was like, no, please don't ride your bike anymore. I know. I'm so scared you're gonna die. Aaron
actually rode it home for me from Charlotte. So it's an hour car ride. Yeah. And to ride it home, I was like, I am not comfortable. Charlotte traffic in rush hour. I don't want to do that. Aaron was like, I'll do it. I was like, you're not scared? He's like, no. Oh, God. I would be scared. I followed him home, and like, he doesn't need me to, what am I going to do? Yeah. If something happens.
It's just the thought that like, you have your eyes on him, he's safe, and like,
but just the fact that he's like, no, I'm not scared. I'm like, dang. Oh, who are you?
Okay, Mr. Raven Tattoo. Who the fuck are you?
That was our very busy weekend, and now it's going to be 1 billion goddamn degrees. So that was my week. So now, hey, witch, hey.
Hey, witch, hey. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
I'm Justina.
I'm Christina.
Welcome to Magnolia Street Podcast, your one and only musically inspired practical magic fan podcast.
Every week we deep dive on different aspects. You had like this thing going
I
on
like
the
it. We're what's his fucking face from Sesame Street? Count?
oh
The
Count
Count?
Dracula.
The
The Count.
Count?
Have you seen the video where they bleep the Count unnecessarily, and it
I
just
think
sounds like
so.
I bleep on the walls and we bleep in the halls. Okay, anyway, we talk about different aspects of the movie and the books, as well as treat your ears to our very own practical magic inspired original music. And today we're doing a deep dive, pun very much intended, into the realm of nautical superstition and maritime folklore, coming off the heels of that water episode. So we will be taking you through the Odyssey, through salt, shadow, and stories passed down by generations who dared to sail beyond the horizon.
Yeah, now if you've read Magic Lessons, you guys will remember Samuel Diaz, one of the first magical men in the Owens universe, chronologically speaking anyway, and his life at sea isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the magic. Long before GPS and weather apps, sailors turned to signs and symbols, omens etched into skin, stories whispered into the waves, rituals before launch and prayers before storm. Some superstitions were protective, and some were born from trauma, and some were just weird. But all of them were believed.
Yeah, today we're bringing those beliefs to the surface, and we're going to start with magic lessons, but we're also going to be pulling from Fletcher S. Bassett's 19th century tome, Legends and Superstitions of the Sea, with its pages full of curses, charms, and ghost ships. You can get this for free on Google Books. It's about 500 pages. It's also available on e-reader, but it's like the actual book pages were scanned in for Google Books, whereas like if you're going to read on a Kindle, some of the text when it's scanned isn't great. It's like kind of like jumbly and fucked up.
Okay.
Yeah, I started reading this a while ago, probably like the end of season 1 or beginning of season 2. I can't remember. And as I was reading, I was just highlighting everything I could that pertained to, what we wanted to talk about, everything chapter by chapter. So that's how we're going to go through it today. We're sailing through modern boating myths, we're exploding sailor tattoos and talismans, and yes, we're even going to talk about bananas.
A banana tree?
A banana tree! If you've ever thrown salt over your shoulder, avoid sailing on Fridays, or wonder why pigs and hens were inked into sailors' feet, this is the one for you.
Interesting. I'm excited. This one's been a long time coming, this episode. You've been working on this for a while.
Well, I started working on it and then I stopped because I was like, holy shit, this is 500 pages of
It was
stuff. And then the
overwhelming.
other week, you were like, so are you going to do that one? I'm like, I guess let's get to it. Yeah, this is perfect timing. Right
Yeah.
off water episode. So
Right
yeah.
off Justina losing her car in a flood,
Right. Maybe
perfect.
now you'll know next time in the rain, there's some things maybe you can do, talismans you can have while you're sailing your little boat
Yeah.
through the ocean.
Through the oceans. You mean my way home from work? Through the
of Jersey.
street? Exactly. Yeah, so guys, grab your compass, keep one eye on the horizon, and maybe, just maybe, leave an offering for the sea before we begin. Because, in the words of the old mariners, the sea gives, and the sea taketh away. So we're going to start off with magic lessons. So when we first experience Maria Owens at sea, she's not some mystical legend yet. She's a young woman with knowledge, grit, and a growing reputation, and she earns that reputation the hard way. Life on board isn't romantic, it's brutal. Long journeys, bad food, cramped quarters, pestilence, storms, lice and rats, but Maria brings something the men hadn't expected. Not just healing, but a kind of reverent fear and a respect. She can predict weather shifts before they appear, and she's the one you go to when the salt rations go bad or when dysentery hits, and she knows how to treat deep cuts with molasses and spirits of turpentine, how to steep tea with nutmeg to keep a man alive, and her knowledge becomes survival. And while the sailors might not call it magic, they believe in it just the same. And this was a time when sailors stitched blue thread into their clothes for protection. They refused to tear paper on board or take salt from another man's hand. They tattooed pigs and roosters on their feet, hoping the gods would see those land creatures and carry them back to shore. And Maria, she's folded into this world of superstition, not cast out, but woven in. Some of the crew call her a saint, and others whisper witch. Either way, they keep her close, especially when she insists on bringing her bird, Caden, whom some might have seen as a bad omen. But Maria calls him her black albatross, and since sailors already believed and albatross brought good luck, no one dared challenge her. Not out loud, anyway. And what's striking is how Maria doesn't just tend to the men, she sees the women too. The ones hidden below deck, sick from waves and fear, and she listens and offers ginger for nausea, citrus for strength, and something more subtle. She offers presence. Even in that cramped, dangerous world, she carves out space for care. And now, here's where it gets even more layered. When no American ship will take Maria and her child because sailors believed a baby would bring bad luck, it's the Jewish ships that gave her safe passage. Many of these men come from families driven from Spain and Portugal during the Inquisition, like Samuel Diaz was Portuguese, right? And some carry Torah scrolls, some were pirates seeking revenge, some were goldsmiths or scholars turned sailors by force or faith. And there's one story mentioned, a ship named the Queen Esther, after the biblical heroine who risked her life to save her people. And it makes you wonder how many of these ships were named for women who defied fate and who became a legend.
Yeah, should we do an episode on either the Queen Esther, the ship, or the biblical Esther, or even some of these women that were named for ships that have these like Jezebel had such a crazy story.
Yeah, I think a ship episode in general would be a great addition to this episode and a great rabbit hole to deep dive down, because we've talked about the friendship in Salem, the Grand Turk, like we've talked about, nautical history has become kind of like
Interwoven.
a part interwoven with, Magnolia Street podcast
I love
canon
it.
lore. Yeah, it's fascinating. So I would love to do an additional ship episode for sure.
Cool.
And then going back to Samuel Diaz, right? He's young, he's brash, he was drowning literally and figuratively. So going back to, I guess, his storyline, one night he's injured and bloodied, and he looks down into the Black Sea and sees an eel thrashing in its death throes, and something in him breaks. He believes it's a sign that if he lives, he has to change. So he makes a promise to God, or maybe to himself, to live differently. And for men like Samuel Diaz, raised on salt air and starlight, the ocean wasn't something to be conquered, it was something to be read. And he wasn't a magician in the way that people whispered, though the way he navigated the waves made it easy to believe. What others called witchcraft was, in truth, deep knowledge passed down through generations, mathematics, astronomy, and the quiet guidance of those who came before, like the Jewish scholar Abraham Zacuto, whose tables of celestial positions gave sailors the means to find themselves even in complete darkness. Samuel's father, Abraham Diaz, was a man of science and stories. Do you think Alice took the name Abraham from the Abraham Zacuto, the Jewish scholar?
I know Abraham's a popular Hebrew name.
Mm-hmm.
Is Abraham Zacato a real person?
I don't know.
Because usually as a writer, you would want different names. But if Abraham Zacuto is like a real person, I could see her pulling historical figures in.
Right.
Let me look that up.
Yeah, so maybe that the name Abraham inspired her, or, inspired the Abraham Diaz character. So
he was a real person.
Okay.
So let's add him to the list.
Yeah, Abraham Zacuto. Okay. All right, Alice, taking that name and reinventing it to, I guess suit one of the characters. Because, like, typically what Alice does is she takes names from history and she incorporates those historical figures into her novel themselves, interwoven with her fictional characters. But I like how I don't know if it was intentional or if it was a conscious decision, but I do like how, like, Abraham Zacuto and Abraham Diaz, same name, maybe not, maybe based on the same person, not sure.
I don't know. I don't think I don't know. I feel like Zacuto was like 1500. Well, okay. Let me go look.
Well, maybe it's not supposed to be the exact person, but maybe it's inspired, because if Abraham Zacuto, it says he was a man he gave sailors the means to find themselves in complete darkness. He did the tables of celestial positions, so he was a man of, like, science and stories, it seems. And Abraham Diaz was kind of that same kind of figure,
Yeah, I like that. He died in 1515.
Okay.
So just briefly before our timeline here in this book. So yeah, you could be right.
Not too far off. Yeah. So Abraham Diaz, though, didn't trust witches. He didn't trust much of anyone, really. But after a lifetime at sea, he'd come to understand that not all power needs to be visible to be real. So he let Maria board their ship. Reluctantly at first, because his son, Samuel, Though steady and brilliant, he was afraid, and Abraham knew fear was worth listening to. So once Samuel was gone again, back to the ocean's pull, it was Abraham who'd stayed behind with Maria. And in their shared stillness, he began to speak. His stories, shaped by tide and time, became a balm for her grief, and perhaps for his own. He told tales of beasts and distant shores, of stars that seemed to rise from both the sky and the sea. His memory wandered, but the rhythm of his voice held its own kind of map. And these weren't just yarns spun for entertainment, they were inherited truths spoken aloud to keep the past alive. And they taught Maria something too, about how men like Samuel had learned to trust the sky, and how their knowledge had once been mistaken for magic. In truth, Abraham's stories were a kind of magic. They stitched the vast, unknowable sea into something navigable, something human, and that's what Maria listened for. Not just the adventure, but the lineage. The reminder that even when Samuel was gone, part of him remained in the way his father talked about in the stars. Because in magic lessons, the sea isn't just a backdrop. It's a keeper of secrets, a place that remembers. And we talked about in the water episode, water remembers, right? And the ones who survive it, who understand its signs and read its language, are the ones who carry its legacy forward through stories, through silence, and through the stars. The only thing that I really had to say is that, people who were on the ships back in the day, they didn't want women on board. That was like a big no-no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only woman allowed was the woman at the end, on the ship's, what's that front piece?
Prow? The prow?
Yeah, it's always usually a woman on the end of the boat, right? The statue or whatever, to kind of I guess ward off, negative ocean entities or whatever.
It sounds like these Portugal Jewish ships were taking women as passengers, because I feel like there were other women on board, but there was something about Maria, maybe because she had Caden and a baby. They're like, I don't know about this, but
right. Yeah. Nothing. I don't really have anything else. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is where that book by Fletcher S. Bassett comes in. So there are 14 chapters. I don't think I included all 14. I think there were 4 in the middle that was okay, I don't have anything highlighted here.
Yep.
But the chapters go like this. So chapter 1, it's the sea dangers, which has rocks, water spouts, whirlpools, etc. Number 2 is the gods, saints, and demons of the sea. We're going to have a lot of demon talk.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, wind makers and storm raisers. That's a cool duo name. That could be you and me.
You're the wind maker and I must be the storm raiser.
Yeah. Number 4 are water spirits and mermaids. Number 5, chapter 5, the sea monsters and sea serpents. Chapter 6 is legends of the Finny tribes, which I didn't include anything from, I don't think. Number 7 is stories of other animals. 8 is specters of the sea. I think there was a lot about. Number 9 was the death voyage to the earthly paradise or hell.
What?
10 is the Flying Dutchman. Chapter 11, sacrifices, offerings, and oblations. Chapter 12 is ceremonies and festivals. Chapter 13 is luck, omens, images, and charms. And chapter 14 is miscellaneous, like the drowned and drowning and sunken bells and towns and lodestones, the deluge, and famous voyages. So,
wow, that's a mixed bag there.
We ready. I really tried to sum up each chapter's highlighted, thank you ChatGPT, highlighted content, because this book is not a story beginning to end. It's this culture believed this culture believed this, these people did this, and I was okay, can you make this more readable here?
Throwing a lot at you.
Yeah. Okay, so how about we start with ancient superstitions of the sea. I also included a link to another in our OneNote here to my original annotations, just copied and pasted in if you want the actual stuff. Here we go. So, long before weather satellites or Doppler radar, the sea was read like scripture, its tides, winds, and whirlpools forming a sacred, unpredictable language. And while today we might check for forecast, sailors for centuries turned to a different set of guides, omens and numbers, tides, and the moon. Many ancient cosmologies, Vedic, Assyrian, Hebrew, Greek, even Germanic, held that life itself began in water. According to early philosophers, the sea was the very first of all elements, a divine origin, and maybe that's why sailors feared it with the same reverence they might offer a god. They knew the ocean could be beautiful, but they also knew it could kill. Take whirlpools, for example, once believed to be the work of devils and monsters. Small vessels were especially at risk. In Norse countries, they even had a story for it. In the folk tale Why the Sea is Salt, a captain buys a magical quarren, which is a millstone, from a man who got it from the devil himself. When turned, it can produce anything the owner desires. But the captain, wanting salt, forgets to stop the charm. The quarren keeps grinding. This millstone keeps going, filling the ship until it sinks beneath the weight. The wreck vanishes into the sea, taking the salt with it. That, they say, is why the sea is salt.
Oh.
It's a cautionary tale about greed, about forgetting, and how even a gift can be a curse if you don't know how to wield it. And you know what? It's not so different from magic, is it?
Mm-hmm.
There's another maritime belief that feels almost like folklore encoded in physics. The idea that the 10th wave, sometimes called the ninth,
what?
is always the largest and most dangerous.
Like that love spell?
Like the love spell.
Yeah.
We're gonna have quite a few, oh my god, it's all connected in this, because I was like, no shit.
Alice did her research on her nautical folklore.
She sure did. Yeah. British fishermen even call it the death wave. One story tells of a sailor who saw it rising in the distance and made a sign of the cross. I made the sign of the Holy Cross, he said, and a wave before it reached us. In Scotland, waves were more than a threat. They were medicine. Okay, a sick cow, it said, could be cured by washing it in 9 crashing surfs. In witch trials like that of Margaret Richart in 18th century, the power of the 9th wave was even cited as evidence for supernatural healing. The instructions were precise. Oh God. Go thy way to the seaside and tell 9 have the sea come in. Then take the looffuls of the water and put within the stoop, and thou will get thy profit back again. 9 waves, 3 spoonfuls. The math mattered. The math is math in here, apparently. The mystic numbers 3, 9, 10 were believed to echo birth cycles, gestation, resurrection, and magic. And where there's magic, there's death. Many believe that people died on the ebb of the tide. As old as Aristotle, recorded by Pliny, echoed by Dickens, this belief stretched from the Mediterranean to New England. In fact, along the Cape Coast, families swore that a man could not pass until the tide turned, that he'd hang on gasping until the water shifted. If the patient, this is a quote, if the patient lives until the flood begins to set in again, they'd whispered, he'll live till the next ebb. Storms, too, carried superstition. One Italian engineer from the 16th century wrote that sailors feared waterspouts, those churning oceanic columns. But there was a charm. Take a black-handled knife, recite the Paternoster, stab the air 3 times in the sign of the cross, and plunge the blade into the side of the ship. You putting a hole in your boat?
That's oddly specific.
I know. Pilgrims claim to see great whirlwinds at sea, what mariners called dragons. And if one came toward the ship, sailors would cross swords on the prow to turn it away. A duel of steel against the storm. Storms, you see, were more than weather. They were brood. In Vedic mythology, Ruda, also called Briga, which I feel we've talked about on here.
Vedic mythology, yeah,
those names, was a storm deity whose name shared a root with brew. That's where the phrase brewing a storm comes from. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's said that gods themselves would distill nectar and ambrosia in sacred storms. But the storm wasn't always divine. Sometimes it was haunted.
What is ambrosia?
It's the drink of the gods, but I know it's also it's a dessert, like with marshmallows.
Yeah, that's what Edward Scissorhands is eating in the movie, right? The ambrosia salad, when they're all feeding him the salad, and he's
Yeah.
What does he say? He says something that's really fucking funny. Like, Johnny Depp's comedic timing is on point. I don't remember what he says, but he's like, oh, he goes, I did the shish kebabs.
These are shish kebabs. But they're marshmallows, yeah.
I love that fucking movie.
Ambrosia. I'm not a fan of
Never had
marshmallow salad.
It looks disgusting.
Yeah,
but I guess it's something that they ate a lot in, like, the 50s, like, right?
Yeah, like the Jello mold era.
Like the aspic or whatever.
What's aspic?
It's like the Jello. It's like the meat in the Jello mold.
Ew, I've never heard of that.
It looks disgusting. Anyway.
So, yeah, I'll pass. English
Hard pass.
sailors believed that the wind demon was attended by the soul of unbaptized children.
Oh.
Tiny whales carried on the gusts. In other tales, it was Odin himself riding the eight-legged horse Sleipnir across the clouds, stirring tempests in his wake.
Do you
And
think that they didn't let babies on the ship or it was considered bad luck because they hadn't been baptized yet? And because they hadn't been baptized yet, they were carrying demons?
yeah,
Right?
I believe
Okay,
that.
that makes sense now. Because before I was like, why wouldn't they let babies on the ship? But now
Yeah.
that you're saying that they were unbaptized, that makes sense.
Diamonds.
Yeah.
That's why when Woden's Day, Odin's Day, or Wednesday is long considered an unlucky day for sailing. Then there's the moon, queen of the tides, tides of fate. Ancient lore says that storms come when the moon is new and her horns are sharp. If a darkness crosses her face, wind will follow from that direction. If her horns are wide and dull at rising, rain will come. If she hides on the fourth day, storms will linger. If she shines bright on the 16th, violent tempests will follow. In Belgium, a flame-colored moon on the sixth day means tempest is near. In England, some fishermen will swear that fish rot faster when taken under a full moon. In Scotland, a circle around the moon, called a brew or a bruh, bruh,
Bruh.
warn of cold and rough weather. About the moon, there is a bra. Or as Jillian says, ring around the moon, ring around the moon. Where's my tiger's eye? The weather could be cold and rough. Other cultures agree. In the Shetland Islands, they call it the Kangar. Rain go before. In Calais, circle round the moon, sailors go aloft soon. And in Brittany, never a circle low the moon, should send your topmast down, and when it is around the sun, with all the mass it must be done. Clouds too carried meaning, though they were more trustworthy. Long streaks across the sky, stretching east to west, were, quote, Noah's Ark clouds, a sign of fair weather, but if they ran north to south, rain was on the way. These weren't just old sailor sayings, they were survival tactics disguised as stories, magic disguised as myth, and myth that still floats just beneath the surface of what we call common sense. And it's no wonder sailors once saw the sea as something divine, dangerous but holy, every wave a test, every tide a sermon. The same reverence for the elements echoes through practical magic's universe, especially in magic lessons, where the sea isn't just a backdrop, it's a force that shapes destiny. Maria Owens doesn't just board the ship, she becomes part of its rhythm. The men on deck may not speak it aloud, but they trust her as much as they trust their compass, maybe more. She heals them with borage and ginger, protects them with blue thread and basil, watches the sky with the same quiet suspicion passed down from every sailor before her. When the sea is calm, she listens. When it stirs, she knows how to read its signs. A cat curled into a coil, red skies at sunrise, a silver coin slipped under the mast. This is the language of both superstition and survival, the language of witches and watermen. And Maria doesn't just endure the voyage, she leaves her mark on it. Her presence makes the men believe in things they've only whispered about. Luck, omens, protection. She sews that blue thread into their cuff. She knows when not to light a candle. Because very dangerous on board a wooden boat. She even redefines the shape of luck itself, declaring that a black feathered raven like Caden isn't a harbinger of death, but a black albatross, rare, magical, and blessed. And these moments in magic lessons feel like echoes of older stories, sea spells handed down in salt and silence. They remind us that sailors and witches were never so different. We're going to come to find they're the same. Sailors are witches.
Yeah.
Both
Witches
knew
of the sea.
Witches
right?
of the sea, yes. Both knew how to read the wind and both knew the price of misreading it.
But is it chicken or is it fish?
Chicken of the sea. Have you ever seen Gallivant? It was
No.
like a Monty Python meets Camelot musical kind of thing.
Okay.
There's
No,
a Weird Al's in it and he plays a monk. They've
okay.
taken a vow of singing, so they can't speak, they only sing, and it's the fucking funniest thing ever. But there's
Oh.
like these pirates that are shipwrecked on an island, so they're like, we're the pirates of the sea, but not of the actual sea. And like their whole spiel is so fucking funny. I
I gotta
recommend the
see
show.
that.
It's
I'll put
really
that on the
good.
watch list. Weird Al, he's funny. I like
He
him.
is amazing. Did you
Yeah.
see the Weird Al movie?
Was that like from the 90s?
No, with guy who played Harry Potter.
Oh, Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
I was blown away actually of how good
It's
it
good?
I think there's like one factual thing and the rest Weird Al just like fucked around. It's funny.
Those two together, Daniel Radcliffe and Weird Al, not on my bingo card of actors that or people that would be in a movie together.
I know. Yeah, Weird Al plays like the producer of the music, and Daniel Radcliffe plays young Weird Al.
So is it a musical?
Kind of, kind
Okay.
of.
Have to
It's really
check that
good.
out. That
Yeah.
sounds interesting. It's piqued my interest, so I'll
Okay.
add that to my list.
Okay.
So now let's turn to the ones who rule the waves. We're diving into the pantheon of protectors and punishers who ruled the open water, from ancient sea gods and storm brewing deities to Christian saints, sailors called upon in desperation, right alongside demons blamed for wrecks, whirlpools, and ghost ships. It's a holy trinity of fear, faith, and folklore stitched into the sails of every voyage. So first we're going to talk about gods, saints, and demons of the sea. The sea has always needed its deities. From the beginning of time, sailors looked to the divine for protection or for someone to blame when the storm rolled in. In Babylonian myth, the god Hea, also known as Hoa, was called the deity of the abyss. He held temples in ancient ports like Ur, and was said to be the Lord of Arts, the one who taught mankind all manner of useful things, including, perhaps, how to survive the sea. Even in Egypt, a land suspicious of ocean waters, they had a goddess of navigation, Isis, the moon goddess and wife of the sun. Her cult was adopted by the Romans, who celebrated her feast on the 5th of March, a day that became sacred to sailors. The Greeks gave us Nereids, sea nymphs, half woman, half fish, the origin of mermaids. Penelope, and Thetis were especially invoked by seafarers. These were not monsters, these were helpers. In myth, they even assisted the Argonauts as they sailed on their quest. But not all sea goddesses were so generous. Aphrodite, born of the sea foam, emerged from the surf radiant and divine, but as her identity merged with Venus, she lost her maritime power. Still, the sea remembered her. Hesiod wrote, "Her gods and men, named Aphrodite, goddess of the foam, since in the sea foam nourished." When Venus no longer protected mariners, another woman rose in her place, the Virgin Mary, known by sailors as Stella Maris, the star of the sea. These are stories of shipwrecked men singing the Salve Regina into the storm. Do you know how that goes?
Salve Regina. No, that's Ave Maria. It's the same thing, isn't it? Ave
Is it?
Maria, Salve
Regina?
I don't know. They
Salve
kicked me out of
Regina,
Catholic school.
I never heard of that one. I don't know, maybe it is the same. Salve Regina. They would sing it into the storm. One man clinging to a worm-eaten image of the Virgin, hoping it would keep him afloat, and of Venetian statues that supposedly saved men from drowning, leading to vows of wax candles offered at sea. And elsewhere, the Portuguese kept an image of Saint Anthony, like Tony,
Tony, turn around.
Saint Anthony, they kept his image in their ships. If prayer didn't bring the wind, they'd tie the statue to the mast and beat it until the storm broke.
Tony, turn around, give us wind, or we'll run aground. Or as Aaron says now, Michael, turn all over, help me find a four-leaf clover.
Did he make that up?
He was like, what is your prayer that you say? Michael, turn all over. Like, what? You mean Tony?
Michael, Tony, it's the same thing, right?
Turn all over.
Turn all over. That's so funny. Among the saints, Saint Clement, cast into the sea with an anchor around his neck, was honored with the Mariner's Cross. Saint Benedict, who once made iron float, was invoked in shipwrecks. And then there's Saint Christina, thrown into Lake Bolsena with a millstone around her neck and miraculously saved. She's often shown with the millstone like a martyr of the tide.
Yeah. If I would have known, I was always told I'm not named for anybody, right? And no one ever mentioned St. Christina. And now knowing this story, I would have absolutely chosen that name for my confirmation name. And Christina, that is phenomenal. They would have never let me. And that's the worst part about it. They probably knew there was a St. Christina. But interesting that she was thrown into a lake with a millstone, but is miraculously saved? Maria style?
Yeah, that sounds like very Maria-esque.
I think they shot her after.
Okay. So she didn't get away unscathed completely. Right. Okay. So they saw her for who she was. They were like, "Oh, she's a magical ass bitch." No, but she should die anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. I was going back to the confirmation name. Do you know what my confirmation name was? It's not really a saint, which I'm surprised they let me choose this.
Is it like a patient, like a virtue?
I guess it's one of the angels, the archangel.
Gabriel? Gabrielle?
Yeah, yeah.
Gabrielle?
Well, yeah, but isn't it it's Gabriel, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, I'll just gonna put an LLE on the end and make it feminine. And they let me do that.
I like that.
They
I
let
don't
me
see why
do
not.
that. Right, but like it wasn't a saint. Like you're supposed to pick a name of a saint, but I was like, fuck the saints. I want to be an angel. And they let me do it.
So you're Justina Marie Gabriella Carubia.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
Christina,
Yeah.
Christina, Marie
Christina,
Bobbitt.
Christina, turn around.
Turn around. Turn all over.
Turn all over. Find your four-leaf clover. So yes, so the millstone. What is a millstone anyway?
It's like a giant rock wheel with a hole in the middle, and it goes along a
Oh,
track and it
okay.
grinds up the grain on the
Got
bottom.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, who else carried a millstone to the deep? This is interesting. Another kind of connection via namesake, Saint Vincent.
Right?
What the fuck, Alice? She's making all these nautical connections. So, Saint Vincent was cast into the sea, and his body eventually returned to shore, becoming a relic and a story. I also wanted to mention Hanuman, who is very closely associated with the ocean. This doesn't really have anything to do with like practical magic per se, but I was going through my Spirit Halloween deck because when we do our card pull, I was like, oh, that deck has like monsters and myths and stuff in it, and I remember it had a Kraken card. But then I was
Cool.
flipping through and I was like, oh wow, there's like quite a few nautical cards in this deck, which I didn't realize before.
Awesome.
And one of those is the Hanuman, who is very closely associated with the ocean, particularly in the context of the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. So I'll show you the card. This is the card. Wait, can you see that?
Ooh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's like a warrior leaping over the ocean. So the leap to Lanka is what that leap is called. And Hanuman's most famous feat related to the ocean in his gigantic leap across the sea from India to Lanka, I guess modern day Sri Lanka, in search of Sita, who was abducted by the Demon King Ravana. And this act is a central part of the Sundarkand, a section of the Ramayana. So, some of the obstacles in the ocean during his aerial journey, Hanuman encountered various challenges and obstacles that emerged from the ocean, including Mainaka Mountain. So, the ocean commanded the underwater mountain, Mainaka, to rise and offer Hanuman a resting place, which he respectfully declined to stay focused on his mission. Then there's the Sarasa, a serpent demoness who sought to devour Hanuman, but he outwitted her using his intelligence and adaptability. And then the Simhika, a demoness who captured Hanuman's shadow to pull him into the ocean, but Hanuman swiftly defeated her. And I guess he had some help from the ocean. Interestingly, the narrative suggests a degree of collaboration between Hanuman and the natural elements. For instance, some accounts mention that as Hanuman flew, the ocean appeared to be helping him, and the wind god, God Vayu, Hanuman's father, played a role in his crossing. And in some Southeast Asian adaptations of the Ramayana, Hanuman also has an encounter and a relationship with the mermaid named Suvanamaka, who was the daughter of Ravana. And this highlights the cultural variations and further associations of Hanuman with the ocean and its inhabitants. And therefore, the ocean serves as a significant setting and backdrop for some of Hanuman's most pivotal and celebrated adventures in the Ramayana. And Hanuman was depicted as the Knight of Wands in my Spirit Halloween deck, so I thought that was worth
That's
sharing,
a cool card.
isn't it?
Very
Now,
pretty.
all of the illustrations on this deck are stunning, and I was trying to find the artist of this deck, and it's like nowhere to be found. It's not listed on the deck itself, not on the Spirit Halloween site. I was
Oh.
googling it and googling it. I don't know who illustrated these cards. Did it say he's part monkey? He looks
No, it
like a
didn't.
monkey. Look at his face. It's like a
Oh, yeah,
monkey
yeah,
face.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That is cool.
he's neat. Yeah,
The
neat
colors
art.
are very rich. I like the ocean in that.
It's a very vibrant deck, very colorful. And throughout the rest of this episode, I have some other cards that I'm going to introduce that are more along the nautical themes, along the
Did you
lines
say
of
what the deck
nautical.
is called?
It's just called the Spirit Tarot Cards deck, and you can buy it in any Spirit Halloween shop.
That's wild. That I won't
Yeah.
do all the cards kind of have the same artistic vibe, or do you think they're different artists?
No, it's all the same artist. Look at these. They're all the same kind of
Wow.
illustration style.
Yeah.
Look at
Maybe
this
there's
one.
probably like a subreddit somewhere.
I hope so. I need to find it. Look at this one, the Mandragora. That's so cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Right?
But for every saint, there's a demon waiting in the water, right? In Iceland, sailors warned never to leave the oar handle uncovered, or the devil would grip it and take control. Aboard the French brig du Grammont, a sailor cursing God was said to be snatched by Satan in the form of a sea monster. In German tales, a demon. Okay, I'm gonna just say demon normally because there's way too much in this one.
Alex Clark would be loving this episode.
I
She
know.
commented on something, or she DM'd us or something, and she was like, "Yo, that last episode had so much demons in it. I'm loving it."
I will say it normally. I'll still put the chorus in the background. How's that
All
sound?
right, all right.
In German tales, a demon pilot boarded a drunken ship and steered it straight through a cleft in the rocks into the mouth of hell. In Russia, devils dragged boats down into Lake Kirchhoff. In another tale, Satan disguised himself as a common sailor until the crew saw through him and drove him off the ship. Even Redbeard, not a pirate but a storm demon, was feared near the coast of Saint Paul de Leon. Satan, at sea, became so common his name morphed into maritime language. Busy as a devil in a gale of wind is a quote. The devil's to pay and no pitch hot. What's that mean? Like pitch, like turpentine?
The devil's to
Like pitch
pay
black?
and no pitch hot.
A saying from caulking the seam of a deck. The devil's smile is a deceptively fair weather, I suppose. The devil's tablecloth is a stormy spread on the horizon. That's cool. The devil's claw or devil's boat, all names found aboard. Eventually, the devil became Davy, as in Davy Jones.
Oh.
According to some, the phrase Davy Jones' locker is a warped mix of divas, meaning God, diva, meaning spirit, and Jonah, the biblical storm offering swallowed by the whale. If a sailor was unlucky, he was called a Jonah. If he died at sea, he went to Davy Jones' locker.
Like a Jonas brother?
Like a Jonas brother. Yep. Yep.
Cake by the ocean. So another card in my Spirit Halloween deck is the Kraken, right? Which is based on the Nine of Cups of the Rider-Waite deck. Here it is. Look at it. That's so badass.
I love a Kraken.
The like a hot pink magenta purpley octopus just attacking a ship.
Just flamboyant as fuck. That is a beautiful Kraken.
I love Jules Verne. For like a while, I have like this huge red book of like a bunch of like a compendium of a bunch of his stories, and I was like I'm gonna get through this book. I did not get through the book. It's really big. But I was reading some of the stories, and one of his famous tales is was it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? And I believe that has a big kraken involved in it, and a kraken is just a very large octopus, right?
Yes.
So yes, this card is based on the Nine of Cups, and it carries themes of abundance, emotional satisfaction, and the reward of self-reflection, but with a slightly darker twist. In traditional tarot, the Nine of Cups is often known as the wish fulfillment card, representing emotional contentment, the achievement of goals, and satisfaction with what you've worked toward. When you translate this to the Kraken card, it suggests that your desires have been realized, but there might be an undercurrent of excess or indulgence. So here's just a deeper interpretation for the Kraken card based on the Nine of Cups. So like the Kraken, which dwells beneath the surface, your emotional world might seem calm and content on the surface, but there's more happening beneath. And this card invites you to look deeper into what truly brings you satisfaction. Are your desires and achievements fulfilling the way you think they should, or there may be hidden aspects of your life or psyche that, once acknowledged, can lead to greater contentment. The Kraken is a creature of immense power, suggesting that you have a strong ability to shape your own emotional landscape, right? Because the Nine of Cups is all about the water and that emotional landscape. And this often indicates that you're in a place where your wishes are starting to come true, and with this comes the ability to control and direct your emotional state. Just like the Kraken's tendrils, and it's got many, you have many ways to influence your environment, but the key is not to become overwhelmed by your own power or desires. And then there's indulgence and excess. The Kraken's overwhelming nature can also serve as a warning against indulgence in the context of the Nine of Cups, which sometimes reflects overindulgence. The Kraken suggests that while you've received what you've wished for, it's important to remain mindful of how you use your emotional or material gains. There's a fine line between fulfillment and excess, and the Kraken warns you to not let that line be crossed. This card could also be reminding you that achieving your emotional goals might come with hidden costs, like the Kraken pulling things into the deep. Some of your desires might come with unexpected consequences, and it's important to weigh the joy and satisfaction with what might be lurking in the depths, potentially reminding you that achieving one thing could lead to unexpected emotional burdens or responsibilities, right? Mo money, mo problems.
That's right.
So P. Diddy, or what's his fucking name, could have used this card, right? Didn't he sing that song?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, no problems.
Finally, the Kraken card in the context of the Nine of Cups may also be an invitation to explore the deeper realms of your own emotional well-being. Dive deep into self-reflection, make sure that your wishes and satisfactions align with your true, most authentic self. The Kraken suggests that there may be things you're not seeing clearly, so take the time to check in with yourself and ensure that you're not just swimming in the shallows of temporary satisfaction, but truly embracing what brings long-term emotional fulfillment. In essence, the Kraken card based on the Nine of Cups reminds you to find balance between achieving your desires and not letting indulgence or hidden emotional depths overwhelm you. And keep a check on what truly brings you joy, and be aware that there may be a deeper lesson beneath the surface.
When you post the listen now, can you post these in the carousel, like with the listen now?
Yeah.
That would be great.
I can do that. I want to finish that damn book. It's just so big.
It just looks big. Maybe that story is not as, like, maybe tab it beginning and end and be like, oh, it's just this much. I can do that.
Writing, the text in it is like super small too. It's like,
are they like Bible thin pages or you can like see through them? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like they jam-packed that book.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Oh, this is still me.
It's
Okay.
you.
All right. So moving on to sirens. How do you say this word? Skyla?
Skyla. That's a pretty name.
It is a pretty name. And other sea spirits. From Homer to sailors of the 1800s, some dangers didn't need horns or hooves. They just needed a voice. Let's start with the sirens. Half bird in early myths and half fish in later ones, were the deadly muses of the sea.
But not of the actual sea.
Their music was irresistible, their voices divine. Sailors would crash their ships onto rocks just to hear them sing. In the Odyssey, Odysseus wanted to hear their song, but he wasn't foolish. He had himself tied to the mast while his crew stopped their ears with wax. But in was it Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Remember that scene with the sirens?
Yes, in the water.
They actually succumbed to that, right?
They sure did.
Got lured in by those beautiful women singing their songs, and was it like a creek or something?
That movie is so layered. It's so cool. Oh, yes. And turned into a frog.
That's right. Yeah. And then didn't somebody eat the frog? John Goodman?
I think he just threw it against a tree.
I think, yeah. I think you're right.
Delmer?
Good movie, though. Like, I didn't realize that it was in alignment with the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And watching it with that knowledge, it added like a whole other layer to it. So it was really cool. That's definitely cool. And then a woman's voice, after all, could unmake a man at sea. There's also a siren scene in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And that song, very pretty song. I don't remember how it goes, but I had it in my Spotify playlist for a while with them. I had like some ocean lullabies when I was doing like my mermaid month. I made a whole playlist. So I'll share that over on Patreon if anybody wants it. And then let's talk about a Skyla. I've never heard of this word, but this too was part woman, part terror, dragging sailors into the depths with snapping mouths and grasping limbs. And she wasn't seductive. She was more monstrous.
Okay.
I think that's the difference. A siren is seductive at first and like luring and is a beautiful woman and like a man wants to be in her arms. And that's really what lures him in. But a Skyla, like, it's just a straight up monster. Like this thing ain't trying to sugarcoat things to lure men in. Like it's just gonna come right at you and you're done.
Cleopatra.
That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So a symbol maybe of the belief that women on board brought bad luck, not just because of superstition, but because they were seen as distractions that might anger the gods.
Okay, guys. All right. Let's talk about some good spirits. Not every spirit at sea was wicked. In German folklore, the Klabautermann was a helpful spirit who lived aboard ships. He was a skilled craftsman, a bit mischievous, and a patron of music and repairs. Carved images of him, little men in yellow coats with pipes and caulking hammers, I've seen something like this, were attached to masts for good luck. But if you ever saw him, that meant that the ship was doomed. So it's kind of like seeing a gnome or like a troll or something like.
Right. It kind of reminds me of that story, the elf and the shoemaker. The shoemaker goes to bed at night, and then the elf makes the shoes, and in the morning the shoemaker's like, "What the fuck? Who did all of this work?" And like the elf, I don't think he ever. I think he sees the elf, and then that kind of destroys
The
the
magic stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact like lesson, or like, you know, in Aesop's fables, there's always a lesson to be learned. I don't remember the exact turn of events in the story, but very vaguely, I think that happens. And it sounds kind of like this.
It does sound like that. Okay. So just put those blinders on and stick to your job. Don't look around for the Club Outerman.
Right.
Yeah. Then we've talked about Castor and Pollux here before, the twins, Gemini, Mercury, protectors of sailors and warriors, sons of Zeus, and possibly Tyndareus. One was mortal and the other divine. One passed away. I think Pollux died, and Castor went to Zeus, asked him to bring his brother back or for them to be together forever, so they put him in the stars together forever. They shared immortality by switching places, one day alive, one day dead, tied forever to the sea and the sky. In Greek and Roman tradition, they were patrons of hospitality, oaths, athletics, and especially those in danger at sea. Sailors believed that St. Elmo's fire, those eerie lights at the mast, were the twins appearing in person. Temples to Castor and Pollux appeared in Sparta, Athens, Sicily, and Rome. In the forums, the temples became a center for trade, currency, and cavalry parades. They were the bright lights in the constellation Gemini, the twin protectors, the divine sailors, the ones who showed up when they're about to go under.
Let's talk about some more saints who keep us afloat. We also owe a debt to the saints who stand watch from shore to storm. First, there's Saint Brendan, the navigator, who sailed for the Isle of the Blessed. Saint Nicholas, yes, that Nicholas, like Santa Claus,
Like Santa Claus? I guess.
Whose sailors say holds the tiller. And then Saint Christopher, a giant ferryman and patron of travelers. I wonder if St. Christopher has anything to do with, like, you know, the ferryman after you die, the one that takes you from the land of the living to the land of the dead, like in Coco. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I wonder if that's based on
He's like the Christian ferryman. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why they say you put coins on people's eyes when they die, so they have change. They have the toll to pay the ferryman.
That's right. What do you think he's doing with all that money? We've had this conversation before.
He's paying he's paying the troll toll to get into the boys' hole.
It's just keeping up his boat repairs.
Yeah, keeping up the well, I guess that would make sense. He needs to fix the boat at some point, right? Then Saint Elmo, Saint Elmo's Fire. Isn't that a 80s movie?
It is about an actual fire.
I have no idea what that movie's about, but I hear it. I hear about it all the time, never seen it. But St. Elmo, I guess, was struck by lightning, tortured with windlasses, and prayed to during electric storms. So I guess like thunderstorms and heavy thunderstorms, maybe you want to pray to St. Elmo so that your I guess the mast doesn't get struck by lightning, or the I don't know. That's probably, you know, what causes most shipwrecks, right? Probably getting struck by the mast or whatever that lightning rod is at the top of a boat.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not unheard of. Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that what took out Pippi Longstockings' ship?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
but even this, as someone who has become more afraid of storms and lightning and thunder over the years, now that I'm a homeowner surrounded by trees, you know, put him along with Tony. Elmo. Let's figure out a rhyme for him.
Elmo needs new sneakers.
Elmo got new sneakers.
Never heard that.
Saint Clement, drowned with an anchor, now worn on the mariner's cross. And then there are the gods Mazu, Ran, Njord, Neptune, Ganga, Enki, and Poseidon. I'm wondering if those are all just like the same reiterations of each other, just from different cultures.
Yeah, could be.
Because Neptune and Poseidon, are they the same? Just one is Roman, one is Greek?
I think so.
Right? So much of sailing, it turns out, was never just about stars or knots. It was about belief, what you clung to when the waves rose too fast or the sky cracked open. From saints lashed to masts to daemons cloaked in fog, sailors wrapped their survival in story. They tattooed pigs and roosters on their feet, whispered prayers to Saint and cursed the name of Davy Jones. And isn't that what the Owens women do too, right? Witchcraft? Yeah, they lace meaning into the everyday, into candles, herbs, the shape of a dress, or the flick of a match. Their magic isn't just spell work, it's the inheritance of knowing that unseen forces can steer a life or sink it. In practical magic, Sally teaches her daughters that magic is real, but it has rules, and those rules are often rooted in weather, in wind, in the way the air shifts when something's coming. Right? She tells in the movie, she's like, "Go close the windows, a storm is coming."
Yeah.
So as we leave behind saints and sirens, let's turn our attention skyward, because the ocean wasn't the only thing that sailors feared. It was the change in the clouds, the storm behind the silence, and the women on shore who could feel it coming in her bones.
Yeah, that's pretty metal.
Mhm.
So, speaking of which, R.I.P. Ozzy.
Yeah.
No, Trisha, you were so close.
Wait,
You took the wrong one.
but can we talk about her son's name?
Yeah, yeah.
Aquaman?
I'm cool with Elvis for a girl. That's kind of cool.
Okay,
But Aquaman, not so much.
Aquaman.
There,
Which is even weirder. Did you hear that Jason Momoa, what did he like MC, or like he introduced Ozzy at his last concert or something like that? I was hearing there was like a connection.
really?
Yeah, there's a connection with Jason Momoa,
No, I didn't hear that.
Ozzy Osbourne, and Trisha Paytas's new baby,
I
who's
also
named
heard
Aquaman.
Titanic was a name in the running. Did you hear that?
No, was it?
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? Why I don't understand
She's a
these
witch.
celebrities. I
I
never
kind
will.
of like her. She's like past the cringe point. I'm like, I just like her.
Yeah,
You know?
she was going through a rough go for a while, and I always felt bad for the girl. But she got her love, she got her baby, she made her family, and
Yeah.
she's on the up and up. She's happy, and that's all that matters. You know, she is doing a lot better these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Let's talk
never.
about some storms. Not the kind that roll in on meteorological maps. God, that's hard to say, but the kind conjured in a whisper, a side eye, a knot in a rope, a ring on the wrong finger, a woman standing on the shore with her hand stretched to the sky. That's so spooky. Let's talk witches, wind, and weatheropathy. There's an old Cornish song that goes like this. I think I'd like to be a witch. I'd turn the sea, I'd tether the wind. As suited my fancy best, I'd wreck great ships if they crossed my path with all the souls on board.
Oh, damn.
That's a fucking mood, right?
That's dark.
Because for centuries it was believed that witches, real or imagined, could stir the air, knot up a breeze, KNOT, knot up a breeze, and sink a ship with little more than a glance. Human agents, usually women, were said to control storms through conjuration and spite. In fact, French sailors told tales of certain shipmates who could summon wind using a ring worn on the pinky finger of the right hand. But the catch, they could only spend 3 months at sea and no more than 3 days on land. Any more, and the sea took them. Even Moby Dick mentions a steerage passenger who muttered Bible verses below deck, raising a headwind so persistent that the crew considered throwing her overboard.
Oh.
But women didn't have to be witches to be dangerous at sea. They were feared simply for being present, unlucky, distracting. Aboard ships, women were considered what sailors called kittle cargo, so were priests because of their black robes in association with death, and lawyers because no sailor ever wanted to be cross-examined mid-squall. And yet, despite all this, there's a story from Pliny the Elder again that says storms could be calmed by a woman bearing herself to the wind. In other words, like she's flashing the wind, right?
Okay.
In the twisted logic of the sea, a flash of skin could do what prayer couldn't. One sailor even heard a child crying in a woman's arms and muttered, "So we have a squall, soon we'll have a breeze." That contradiction, it's everywhere. Witches were feared, yes, but they were also emulated. Sailors were in many ways witches themselves. Oh, and guess who shows up right now? Fucking Cotton Mather.
What?
Of course he does. And he says a Laplander, the successor of the old Bjarni. And yes, he probably meant the Bjarni. I don't know what this is. Herr
Herholson.
who is a Norse explorer who may have seen the American mainland long before Columbus could, quote, bewitch other people or sell winds to mariners, which sent me scribbling in the margins. I literally wrote sailors are witches, divination, weatheropathy, not magic. On one hand, they're witches, but on the other hand, they're like kill 'em all. So lots of contradictions in this tale. So that kind of brings us to a little not magic. They say that the sea loves a knot. A knot can bind a spell, tether a lifeline, hoist a flag, or summon the wind itself. And that's where sailors and witches start to look an awful lot alike. In old maritime folklore, knots weren't just practical, they were magical. Witches were said to sell, quote, wind knots to sailors. Cords tied in threes, each loop holding a different force. Untie one and you'd get a breeze. Untie two, you get a strong wind. Untie the third, and you'd have a tempest. Only the desperate ever pulled the third knot.
That's interesting because we just did the threefold episode.
Uh-huh.
The sparrows who were also tied to sailors with the tattoos.
It's all connected.
All connected, nothing mattered.
These cords weren't always labeled as magic, but they lived at the exact crossroads where superstition, survival, and belief intertwined. Sailors tied red thread around their wrists to ward off storms. Witches tied red thread around a poppet's ankle to stop someone from wandering. Sailors whispered over coils of rope before setting sail. Witches whispered over braided cords to bind a lover or banish a fear. Some even believe that you could trap a storm in a hank of hair and a twist of rope, a braid of protection. And if you look closely, isn't that what Maria does? She stitches blue thread into cuffs of her crewmates, not just for show, but for safety. Her magic, like theirs, is made with hands, tactile, tethered, and tied. For sailors, a well-tied knot was more than skill. It was survival. It's like a whole fucking science, isn't it? Like knot tying and like Boy Scouts and shit.
Yeah.
But in the old days, it was also magic. Some knots were tied not just to hold fast, but to hold back. The quote, devil's fist was a tangled mess of cords thrown overboard to trap evil spirits before landfall. A reef knot tied incorrectly could spell disaster, earning the nickname the thief's knot because it looked right until it slipped. Lines were never supposed to be cut unnecessarily, especially when coiled. To cut a rope that could be untied was seen as wasteful, even blasphemous. Some said it offended the spirits of the ship. Others claimed it invited bad luck, like cutting a relationship before its time. Coils were sacred. If a line was tangled, it had to be, quote, talked to. Sailors whispered while untwisting snared cords, treating it like a temperamental animal. Never step on a coil, never place a hat on a coil, I guess. Some captains refused to speak a ship's name near a twisted line, believing that it would, quote, snag the blessing. And then there was a rope that should never be taken ashore. In Brittany, a sailor who took a bit of his own ship's line home was said to, quote, tangle the luck of the voyage. In the Hebrides, it was believed that bringing a ship's rope into a home would invite a death. Then there were ceremonial knots, the kind sailors wore on their wrists, woven in tattoos, or looped through the rigging at night for good weather. Some were, quote, lovers' knots, braided by hand before a departure, or burned if the sailor didn't return. Others were, quote, storm knots, bound tightly with copper wire or hair, meant to anchor a ship's spirit through squalls.
The duality is at the heart of so many of these stories. Sailors feared the storm, but also wanted to own it and to call it and to conjure it. So now we're going to talk about salt, witchcraft, and Salem wind. And there's something about Salem, right? The way the fog rolls off in the bay. And I was just telling you, Christina, right, about my whole experience visiting the House of Seven Gables some Octobers ago at nighttime. And the rain it rained that whole night. The rain had just stopped in, and watching that fog roll in, like on that water behind the House of Seven Gables, the most eerie thing I've ever probably experienced.
That's
so
cool.
Eerie. You could just feel the water spirits there, right? And the briny hush of the harbor, the way history clings like salt to the pillings. And most think of Salem as landlocked in its legacy, witches, trials, Puritan paranoia. But what often gets left out is the sea, because Salem wasn't just a courtroom, it was a port town, first and foremost, right? Yeah. And the same men who sat on witch trial juries by day, many of them went to sea at at night. They were whalers, traders, and captains, men who knew what it meant to look at a storm in the face and not blink. And they were deeply, deeply superstitious. Even Cotton Mather, who ranted endlessly about witches, also documented stories of weather magic at sea. In one of his lesser-known accounts, he claims a Laplander could, quote, sell wind to sailors, a practice as feared as it was sought out. A knotted rope, 3 loops, untie one, and then the breeze begins. Some Salem sailors carried blue thread in their coats, just like Maria Owens. Others refused to set sail on Fridays or after seeing a red-haired woman on the road to port. One story tells of a Salem captain who threw his cargo overboard not for weight, but because a stowaway cat sneezed. That sneeze meant a squall was coming, and then there were the whispers that weather witches lived near the shore, women who could call fog with a breath or stall a ship by walking the wharf in silence. One tale passed down through Marblehead lore speaks of a woman seen combing her hair at dawn, her feet never touching the sand. Every time she appeared, a vessel wrecked within a week. And it wasn't just local women who raised suspicion. Foreign sailors arriving in Salem Harbor were sometimes met with a wary eye if they bore certain tattoos, especially triple spirals or all-seeing eyes. These weren't just marks of their trade. Locals believe they were talismans passed down from old world witches hiding among sailors. Men who could charm the wind or curse the mast with a single phrase in a foreign tongue. One 1760s ship's log from a Salem privateer even includes an entry about a sudden squall on a cloudless night. The crew blamed a woman who had visited the dock that morning, said she had one blue eye and one black. Heterochromia?
Chromia, bitch!
Holy shit! They found a wax figure in the galley that night, pierced with fish bones. They burned it in the firebox and claimed the wind stilled within the hour. That's so creepy. So where the shoreline ends, Salem ghost ships and phantom tides begin. There's a stretch of coast just north of Salem, rocky, wind-cut, lined with salt-crusted shingles. Marblehead, Gloucester, Nahant, I don't know how to say that, probably Nahant, knowing Boston. These are towns where the wind carries stories, where fishermen once swore they saw ghost ships drifting into harbor, silent, unsailed, only to vanish again with the tide. Do you remember that painting that I bought at the pirate museum?
I think so. You'll have to show me again. I don't remember what it looks like. Is it a ghost ship?
Yeah. I was supposed to give this to a friend who asked me to bring back a souvenir, and I haven't talked to him since then. So
I remember.
Just here. But look at it, it's so cool.
That is beautiful. I love it.
And it's got the little jack-o'-lanterns on it for Halloween.
Beautiful.
I'll have to post a picture of this over on the Patreon or whatever. I don't know who the artist is because I can't Oh, here it is. Alan Delasio of Delasio Artworks LLC. And his Instagram is at Delasio Artworks. I will link that in our show notes because that is just so freaking cool. I kind of want to hang this now.
I know you want it now.
Yeah, I don't know where I would put it though, because I don't really have a lot of nautical themed decor, so I don't know where it would make sense, but
yeah, it would stand out.
I fucking love it. So one of the oldest legends comes from Gloucester, just up the coast. In 1869, the schooner Charles Haskell collided with another vessel during a storm. Days later, it returned to the port, but something was off. The crew claimed they heard footsteps on the deck and whispering voices below. Then came the final straw. Several men swore they saw the drowned sailors of the other ship standing on the Haskell's deck. Soaked and silent, no one ever crewed her again. Some say you can still see her, gliding through the harbor fog, her lights flickering like corpse candles. These sightings weren't rare. In New Haven, after a storm, townsfolk reported a phantom ship sailing upriver against the wind. It was identified as a vessel lost weeks earlier. The vision shimmered, then dissolved into the mist. The event was so striking, it was preached from the pulpit as divine proof. Even Salem Harbor had its share of uncanny moments. There's an old sailor's tale, nearly forgotten now, about a sloop that docked with no crew at all. The ropes were tied, the anchor dropped, food still warm in the galley, but not a soul on board. A single log entry remained, quote, "She walks the deck tonight." No one claimed the ship after that.
That's fucking scary.
Fucking eerie.
She walks the deck tonight?
What does that mean?
I hope you're talking about me. That would be so cool.
This book You remember this book that I bought when we went, you
Yes.
came with us? I bought
One
this
Night
at
in Salem.
Yeah, this book is called One Night in Salem, a Funded Publications anthology. But I bought this at Die With Your Boots On, that
Hmm.
shoe store. And there's a story in here. I don't remember which one it's called. But it was about a ghost ship. And I think I kind of want to read it for the Patreon
Yeah.
for maybe this
Oh,
episode. And I'll
that would be
like,
cool.
narrate
Spook it
it
up.
and spook it up
Yeah.
exactly. But I think that might be a cool little extra for this episode to read a story from this book. It's a compilation of all different scary stories, and they all like some are slashers, some are like, more supernatural, but the ghost ship ones are pretty cool because Salem is such like a watery town. Like it's that
Yeah.
coastal town and it's got so much pirate folklore and it's just freaking fascinating.
It feels very much like a portal town. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's like the what's it called? The entrance to something. Like the
Like a
liminal
like the
space.
liminal space, right?
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, so what's striking is how many of these stories fall right around All Hallows Eve. Some French and Breton fishermen refused to sail on that night, fearing that their nets would pull up not fish, but bones. Ghost ships were said to drift unseen into harbor, crewed by the drowned. If you heard the horses and dogs on the phantom carriage before midnight, you were marked. If you saw it, you were doomed. And these weren't just ghost stories, they were warnings, reminders that even the land remembers the sea and vice versa. Because in towns like Salem, the sea doesn't just take. Sometimes it sends something back, and it
Might
might
not
not be
want it.
alive, it might be a ghost.
Yeah.
So creepy. Um,
Oh, there is a story in not Witches, Women Who Run with Wolves, Freudian slip, about a fisherman seeking a wife, I think, and he's fishing and he hooks the like skeleton of a woman
uh-huh.
and like he's reeling her in, but then he wants to let it go and it's like chasing him. That's kind of a cool one to share too, maybe as like a
Okay.
bonus in this.
That would be cool. You want to do the Women Who Run with the Wolves one, and I'll do this one
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
One Night in Salem.
Yeah, yeah.
We could do that as a bonus.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so freaking cool. I love a good ghost story. And like
Me too.
I love them all year round. Like it doesn't have to be Halloween. I love
Sure, yeah, yeah.
tell me all the ghost stories. Uh, so not all magic at sea was shouted into storms or whispered into knots. Some of it was weirder, quieter, I think a little more local, right? In coastal New England, from the salt marshes of Maine to the rocky harbors of Marblehead, eels weren't just a slippery supper. They were suspect. Sailors in some Massachusetts ports refused to eat them, swearing that eels were witches in disguise, slippery spellcasters who'd shapeshift to avoid detection. Catch one too big, too old, or too clever, best throw it back.
Isn't that
And
what Samuel saw fighting two eels in like the death throes? And he was like, I'll change my ways. That was his comeback to Jesus moment.
yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah. And we even had our eels, water snakes, and Leviathan and Leech Lake episode with Loch Ness Monster and all that. My card deck, the Spirit Halloween card deck, also has a Leviathan and Nessie card,
No
which
way.
which I did not realize when putting together
How would you have
our
known? Yeah.
episode for that. I totally forgot.
What are their
Forgot.
associations number wise?
So Leviathan is the Ten of Cups,
Oh,
and you could see a ship.
that's
Actually,
like isn't Ten of Cups supposed to be like fucking good?
that's what
Like,
I thought.
yeah, that
Yeah,
one's scary.
yeah, that is very scary. And then the Nessie is the Seven of Cups, and that one's kind of more like subdued. It's kind of look. I don't know if you would say
Yeah.
it's sad, but there's a lone boat guy just
Oh my goodness.
casually drifting along while this huge water monster is just looking at him.
I see that.
And there's a lighthouse in this one in Nessie. Look, I'm gonna have to consult ChatGPT because there is no guidebook to this deck.
Interesting.
So I'm curious as to like what the artist's interpretation would be.
Yeah.
When you read the tarot, you kind of put your own spin and interpretation on it depending on the cards you pull and the cards around them.
Right.
But I'm curious like what was in the artist's head when designing these cards is
Yeah.
my question. So, yeah. just thought that was worth noting because I was like, oh my God,
There
Nessie
they are.
and the Loch Ness and the Leviathan. I should have known to put that in our episode. But
We're never gonna get it all.
I know.
It's so hard to
We
swallow that.
generated our own on ChatGPT for that
That's
episode.
right.
But now that I know they're here, I will go throw those over on the Patreon if anybody wants to see what these cards look like because they're worth checking out. Okay, so yeah, talking about these eels, right? Too many men had watched an eel writhe in a net, only to hear a woman scream from the cliffs that night. And then there were the storm lanterns. In fishing towns like Scituate and Wellfleet, it was said that sea witches walked the dunes during gales, catching wind and rain in glass lantern, not for light, but for fog. A jar of gale water, lit from within by a flicker of witch flame, could conjure fog so thick it stalled ships for days. It's like that fog juice from Nightmare Before Christmas.
There you go.
Some say they did it to protect their own, their husbands, their sons, their lovers from dangerous crossings. That's what Sally the Ragdoll did to save Jack Skellington from going on that journey. She was like, "You're not really Santa Claus. You shouldn't be fucking doing this." She poured the fog juice in the fountain, and it was thick for him to go on the voyage, so they had to like course correct or whatever. But
Sally's a real one.
she did that to prevent him from doing the dangerous crossing. Others say it was for revenge. Either way, if you saw a woman walking the shoreline in a storm, barefoot, holding a lantern, you were to look away. Don't meet her eyes, don't speak her name, because in New England, the line between weather and witchcraft has always been thin, and fog remembers who called it.
It might be the La Llorona.
La Llorona, yeah. All of these myths and legends kind of have like a similar thread running through all of them, right?
Yeah.
So animals weren't exempt either. A dead hare on board meant a storm was coming. In Cornwall, a white hare was seen as a prelude to gales. And in German and Irish folklore, witches were said to transform into hares to slip unnoticed among the crew, like that asshole Martha Chase.
That's our Lost Souls Club, baby.
Right. One English ship ran into a gale and found a dead hare on board. They tossed it over the side immediately, but nothing compares to the cat. Cats were chaos incarnate.
That's true.
Yeah, it is true. Loved and loathed, sailors' wives in Scarborough kept black cats at home to protect their husbands at sea. In Newcastle, it was said that throwing a cat overboard would summon a violent storm. Shipboard lore said if the ship survived, the voyage would still be cursed for 9 years. Cats had power. If one sneezed, it meant rain. If it licked its fur the wrong way, hail was coming. If it acted frisky, wind was on the horizon. And somehow, despite all this, every ship still had one. Because cats were necessary. They kept the rats off the ropes and the cargo. They kept diseases from spreading. And maybe, just maybe, they knew something the rest of the crew didn't. Their connection to the moon and to the night, the unseen world, that was part of the fear. It was also part of the reason they were both mascots and maledictions. Dogs were just as complicated, though. On land, they were psychopomps, soul bearers, but on board, they were usually welcomed for their loyalty. But in storm lore, we've done a spectral black dog episode. A spectral black dog named Shoni was said to walk the Cornish coast, foretelling storms. It was believed that mentioning a dog by name could stir the wind. If a dog howled, the wind would follow in the direction of its nose. And then there were the other strange superstitions. Wasn't there a name for the black dog in what was that story I just read?
Like that main name. It also started with an S.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't either.
Yeah. Jane Eyre, right? There was a name for it in Jane Eyre. They called it something, right?
Look it up.
It was like a weird name.
The Hook? The Shook? The Shook?
Shook? Is that it?
Yeah, look that up. The Hook, the Shook, the Shook.
I can't remember what they called it, but it was like some weird freaking name. Okay, so then, yeah, dead bodies on board were said to stall the wind or even provoke storms. One medieval story tells of a ship carrying bones of 4 holy martyrs. The wind died completely. It wasn't until one bone was cast overboard that the sails filled again. The miracle, of course, was credited to the saints, but you have to wonder what else was at play. The ringing of bells could conjure or calm storms. In Tintagel, Cornwall, the bells still ring during storms, said to be the ghosts of sailors whose ship was wrecked and they mocked God when they mocked God.
This brings me to a little side anecdote. Have you ever heard that song, "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald"?
No.
I feel like you have. It's by Canadian folk singer Gordon Lightfoot. It's wonderful. Fucking pull it up when you can. But Canadian folk singer Gordon Lightfoot inspired popular interest in the Edmund Fitzgerald, which it's a ballad. The legend of the Edmund Fitzgerald remains the most mysterious and controversial of all shipwreck tales heard around the Great Lakes.
All right,
So her story is in film and media, only surpassed by the Titanic. The Edmund Fitzgerald was lost with her entire crew of 29 men on Lake Superior, November 10th, 1975. 17 miles northwest of Whitefish, Port, Michigan. Towards the end, the song lyrics say, it says, in the musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed, it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's very sea shanty-like. So they do this annually for remembrance of the crew. They really ring this bell. Well, in 2023, the Mariners Church of Detroit rang the bell 30 times in memory of Gordon Lightfoot. So there's one ring for every man who was lost in the Edmund Fitzgerald and one for Lightfoot, who passed away that year, May 1st of 2023.
Wow.
So he passed away on Beltane.
Oh, wow.
So I just thought that was like, that gives me chills that he helped preserve the memory and the history of these 29 men. And every year on that date in November, they ring the bell 29 times. And in 2023, they did 30 and included him. Like, oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot has a ton of really good songs, but this is probably one of his most famous.
I never heard of that. I'll have to listen to it. I popped the link in there, so I will link that in our show notes as well if anyone wants
Awesome.
to
Yeah.
check that out. Yeah. So let's talk about sacred stones now. In the Hebrides, a chapel dedicated to Saint Columba had a blue stone that was always damp. Fishermen believed that if you wetted it deliberately, a fair wind would come. Chinese sailors beat gongs and burned incense to attract their sea gods. Arab mariners used live coals and incantations, sometimes even human blood, to raise wind. Barbary corsairs sacrificed sheep, lit candles, and if that failed, they beat the Christian captives in the galleys and made them pray.
Oh my God.
That's horrible. And then there's whistling. Whistling was a dangerous kind of wish. Some believed it mocked the devil, tempting him to send a gale. Irish boatmen warned passengers not to whistle at all. In Estonian lore, sailors hung a hat in the direction they wanted the wind to blow and whistled toward it. Some said whistling only worked when the wind was asleep. Others said it was certain to bring on a storm. Longfellow writes of it in the Golden Legend. Only a little while ago, this is a quote, only a little while ago I was whistling to San Antonio. Tony, Tony, turn around. Is that part of it?
That's part of it. I didn't write that.
Shut up! Tony, Tony, turn around. No! Stop!
San Antonio.
Tony, Tony, turn around for a capful of wind to fill our sail, and instead of breeze, he has sent a gale. End quote. That is too funny. And I can't help but wonder how many of those whispers, those knots, those cats and brooms and bones still echo in the way sailors speak today, in how we tell weather and how we brace ourselves for the wind. Because maybe the storm doesn't just arrive, maybe it listens, maybe it remembers, and maybe that's why sailors didn't just fear the weather, they spoke to it.
So let's talk a little bit about the echoes of the sea. Out at sea, surrounded by nothing but water and wind, the mind begins to bend. There's actually a very cool movie called Valhalla Rising. There's no backing music, which makes it even creepier, but it's about like a Viking slave being taken by crusaders to the New World, and all this weird shit starts happening. I think you and Avi would really like this movie. It has Mads Mikkelsen in it, and they get stuck in a fog and they start like losing their fucking minds. It's really trippy. I liked it like the more I watched it. The first time I was like, what the fuck? Second, third time I was like, this shit's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts messing with your brain. Hours stretch, days blur, and the silence, it kind of stops being quiet. You start to hear things. The bell tolling where no ship should be, a woman's voice singing beneath the waves, footsteps on deck when everyone is asleep. They call them the echoes of the sea, auditory ghosts that creep in just past reason. Sailors have reported phantom bells ringing during storms, even when the bell had been taken down. Some heard cries in the rigging, swearing it was a crewmate, only to find no one there. Then there were the 7 whistlers. In Cornish and Welsh lore, there are spectral tones, sharp, wind-carried whistles that come just before disaster. Quote, they whistled low, one old fisherman said. Quote, low and lonely, like a warning you feel in your teeth, end quote. It was said if you heard all 7, you wouldn't live to see the morning. In other tales, it's the drowned themselves you're hearing, the voices carried on sea spray and fog. Along the coast of Brittany, there's a belief that the dead ride the mist, calling back the names of those who will join them. And maybe it's the wind, maybe it's nothing, but when you've been alone too long at sea, you learn sounds don't come from nowhere. Even in The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Coleridge writes of a ship with no breeze, creaking, groaning. It's very wood, speaking of doom. That Rime of the Ancient Mariner is where we get like the folklore about the albatross being killed. They kill an albatross and all this bad luck comes to them. And it's also where we get the water everywhere, not a drop to drink. I don't know if you knew that. So it's kind of cool. It's
I didn't know that.
It's like a long poem, but it's very, very good.
Did you know Fleetwood Mac has a song called Albatross?
No, I didn't know that.
Old Fleetwood Mac. I'm saying like pre-Stevie Nicks era.
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dana, in this is I guess another book, 2 years before the mass. I have that book. I haven't read it yet. Yeah. Describes a ball of blue light drifting down the rigging, completely silent. The crew watches, breathless, until someone whispered, "St. Elmo's fire." But silence wasn't always better. Some sailors claimed that they could tell a storm was coming by what they didn't hear, a sudden hush that left the sea holding its breath. That, they said, was even worse than a scream. This is a spooky kind of episode, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So far, we've talked about the winds and whispers, charms and curses, but we're going to take a quick break right now, and when we return, we're going to dive even deeper. Stranger things still, the sea wasn't just a home to gods and monsters, it held entire races, mortals of the deep, sea giants and dwarves, tricksters, fairies, and goblins, beings that seemed like echoes of land folk, just sea-soaked and sideways. So stick around, we'll be right back.
Hey, little witches! The Steen is here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today.
You're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast.
All right. We're back, guys. Instead of pulling or reading from the Inner Witch Oracle today, we're kind of consulting the Spirit Halloween tarot deck today, which is pretty cool. I don't know if we've read any of these cards on this show before. Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
It's my first time seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, because this deck is chock full of mythological gods and goddesses and beasts and monsters, and I love the cup suit from this deck because they're all some kind of like mythological water beast. And would you know, I was actually looking through all the cups cards from this deck, and I did not realize, we already talked about this, about the Nessie card and the Leviathan card.
Yes, we did, but...
So right now, though, I wanted to talk about the pirate card, because there is a pirate card. And this is based on the Eight of Cups, and this one's cool. It's like a skeleton guy kind of steering ship. So the Eight of Cups invites you to embark on a journey of emotional transformation and self-discovery, and this card often signals a turning point where you feel compelled to leave behind something familiar, be it a situation, a relationship, a phase in life, because it no longer brings you the fulfillment or satisfaction that you need. And the pirate, a figure of adventure and risk, suggests that while this decision may feel like a departure from the known, it's driven by a deep desire to find something more meaningful and authentic. So here's just some different things I guess you can interpret. So the first thing is emotional release and letting go. The pirate card signals that it's time to move on from something that has outlived its purpose in your life, just like a pirate abandoning a ship that's no longer seaworthy. This is hitting a little too close to home for me right now.
Wow.
I literally jumped from my car as it was sinking into water.
Yes, you did. Gotta let it go.
But the funny thing is, like, I'm kind of reviving it and prolonging its life just a little bit, getting my bearings before I. But I am seeing it as a turning point where I'm like, okay, mentally I have to be prepared to let it go. But it's not as sudden as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, you got plenty of time to plan that funeral.
Right. But now I'm like mentally preparing for it as opposed
Hmm.
to like, oh my God, my car is gone.
Yeah,
Like that,
yeah.
that I initially thought that was the case. So yeah, no longer seaworthy. You may need to release attachments to people, places, things, situations that are keeping you stuck. While it can be difficult to leave behind what was once a source of comfort, this card encourages you to trust the process of emotional release and making room for new possibilities. Secondly, you can interpret it as seeking something deeper. The pirate's journey is about seeking treasures, but not just material wealth. The treasure represents deeper emotional fulfillment and growth. This card suggests that your heart is calling for something more meaningful, whether it's pursuing a passion, exploring your purpose, reconnecting with your true self. The journey may feel uncertain, but it is a necessary step to find what truly resonates with your soul. Next is courage and independence. The pirate represents independence and courage and the willingness to face the unknown. The Eight of Cups traditionally shows someone walking away from what they've known, and this card invites you to take a similar leap. It's about trusting your inner compass even when the next steps aren't clear. The pirate reminds you that it's okay to chart your own course even if it feels risky or uncertain.
Very Maria Owens.
Very, yeah. And then it's all about embracing change and transformation. The pirate card emphasizes that leaving behind the familiar opens the door for transformation. Just as pirates embark on a voyage that often changes them, the Eight of Cups speaks to a personal evolution, the act of walking away that marks the beginning of an inner journey that leads you toward emotional healing, personal growth, self-empowerment. It's an invitation to embrace change and trust that it's part of your growth process. And then lastly, cleansing and renewal. Finally, this card signals that while the departure may involve some sadness or loss, it also brings the potential for renewal, like a pirate setting sail toward a fresh horizon, leaving behind the old, allows you to make space for new experiences, relationships, and emotional fulfillment. It's a reminder that sometimes you have to leave behind what no longer serves you in order to create space for something better to enter your life. And in summary, the pirate card, based on the Eight of Cups, encourages you to recognize when it's time to move on, even if it feels difficult. Your emotional journey may involve letting go of the past in search of something more aligned with your true self. It's a call for courage, independence, and the willingness to face the unknown in the pursuit of deeper fulfillment and personal growth. So there you go. That's the pirate
Great
card.
card.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to get into saltwater spirits, sprites, mermaids, and water horses. These creatures weren't always divine, but they weren't ordinary either. They were the in-betweeners. Analogous to land spirits, yes, but housed in kelp and caverns, drifting with tide and myth. So one of these legends we're going to talk about is Mousthorpe, or Mousethorpe, Mausthorpe, right? Mousethorpe?
I tried Googling this, but again, this was a long time ago. I
Okay.
think they're talking about Moshup. Moshup the giant we talked about in our Martha's Vineyard episode.
Oh,
So
oh,
talking
did we?
about like Nantucket area.
Okay. All right. So Moshup the Giant, who, yes, we did talk, I think we did talk about that in our Martha's Vineyard episode. And Moshup is this towering indigenous giant who smoked a stonepipe, hurling whales and rocks like pebbles. The lore says the rocks at Seaconnet, those are his wife. He threw her into the sea, he turned his children into fish, and get this, he dumped out his pipe one day, and poof, Nantucket rose from the ashes.
Folklore.
Wild, right?
What about that?
These stories aren't just decorative. They're how people made sense of place, of shifting coastlines, of missing islands, of grief. And fairies too have had a strong hold on sea lore. Fishermen along the Tweed say the sea fairies ruin their nets and twist their luck. So they salt the nets, throw salt into water to blind them, and salt here becomes both a shield and a signal. The Bretons told stories of sea fairies who lived in the moats, those wave-washed cliff grottos, One fisherman watched them rub their eyes with a kind of salve and instantly changed shape, fish into people. He stole some of the ointment and gained sight beyond the veil, and from then on he could see them even when they tried to hide. They were stealing fish, swimming up like thieves cloaked in scales. And every Scottish lake, it seems, has its own version of a water horse, and the most famous is the Kelpie. A Kelpie, beautiful, black-eyed, luring travelers to mount its back before dragging them under, and there's the story of a man who braved it, climbed aboard, and the beast bolted straight for the lake, and he only escaped by knocking the bridle loose from its head, and that was the key. The Kelpie, unbridled, disappeared beneath the surface. And when we pull back and zoom out from the cliffs and lakes and rivers, we find ourselves among the whole crowd of semi-divine waterfolk. The naiads, the nereids, the nixies, they fill the fables of Greek and Roman myth. Oceanids, sirens, centaurs, nymphs, harpies, even daemons. But aren't centaurs, that's half horse, half human, right? So
my mind goes to Capricorn's sign, like the goatfish thing.
Goatfish.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So like half one thing, half another thing.
Yeah, like a hybrid. Yeah, so together they form the ancestry of nearly every phantom, sprite, or waterbound being ever whispered about since. And let's not forget about the Merrow, the Irish name for mermaids, or Morak. They are not the Disney kind. The Irish mermaid has red eyes, green hair, and a sharp little nose. And her merman, he drinks brandy. Because of course he does.
Because he does.
Yeah. These spirits weren't always beautiful, though. They weren't always kind. But they were believable and believed in. And in a world where wind could be bought and bones could halt the breeze, is it really so strange to think that something might be watching us from below? I hate it too. And that's highly, way more likely than something out in outer space, right? Because the water, the oceans are on this planet. And, you know,
there's aliens in the ocean. We know this.
Yeah. I'm much more afraid of the ocean, I think, than I am of what's out in the sky.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Because in a way, it's like reverse. Like from the sky coming down, they can come anytime, but you have to be willing to get in that shark's house, right?
Yes. Yeah. Did you ever watch the Will Smith did a documentary where he like got in like this little ocean bubble and he went down to the depths of this, it was like some National Geographic documentary that he did, and he went down into the part of the ocean where like there's no light whatsoever, and the only light is from the light on this little bubble thing that they went down on, and like it is horrifying.
Did he say, "Keep my wife's name out your goddamn mouth"?
And then the anglerfish said, "Fuck you, Will Smith."
Yeah.
And then it ate him. It ate the bubble. And then Will Smith never made any movies ever again. And then Chris Rock lived happily ever after.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah. So mermaid card. Yes, there is a mermaid card from this Spirit Halloween deck. This was kind of cool because have you ever seen like the Japanese wave art? That kind of like looks like that kind of style, right?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Looks
so cool.
like that famous painting.
Yeah, and she's just
look at her.
She's just living it up in the
Damn.
ocean there. It's like that scene in the Little Mermaid where she like crashes in the rocks.
What you doing out here with all that ass?
Yeah, I used to do that as a kid, like just like lay on a rock and then just like do that whole Little Mermaid thing. So yes, the mermaid card on this deck is based on the Five of Cups. And this represents emotional loss, disappointment, and the process of grieving, and it suggests focusing on what's been lost rather than what's still available. And the mermaid, often depicted swimming in sorrowful waters, invites you to acknowledge your emotions and give yourself time to heal. However, just as the ocean is vast, there are still opportunities for renewal and growth if you shift your focus to the remaining cups. And this card reminds you that while it's important to grieve, it's also vital to recognize that not everything is lost.
Yeah, it's okay to be sad about your car. Your car is injured.
Yeah.
It's your baby.
It'll be okay in like about a week, and then, you know, I'm gonna start saving for my Jeep.
I know, hell yeah.
Want my Jeep. So, all right.
All right. The next chapter, Specters of the Sea, not of the actual sea. Did you watch that music video I sent you or no?
Not yet. No, I was at work when you sent it. I'll have to watch it later.
Ghostlight's Corpusants and the Toll of the Dead. It said the sailor is a profound believer in ghosts. Perhaps it's the loneliness of the night watch or the vast, unknowable darkness pressing in from all around. But aboard ships, with nothing but ropes and stars to anchor the mind, a man might come to believe in almost anything. There are stories of spectral visitants so persistent, so unnerving, that even the stoutest-hearted sailors refused to climb the rigging alone. No one wanted to meet eyes with something standing on the mainmast watching. But these weren't the only apparitions feared by those at sea. Sailors also dreaded the more subtle spirits, the ones born of mists, of fog, of strange lights playing just at the edge of reason. These are the shapes of air, as dangerous as any phantoms of the deep. Among the most storied of those was St. Elmo's fire, or the corposant, as many old mariners called it, a strange, shimmering blue light, sometimes no larger than a star, other times like a fat glowworm drifting down the rigging. It might cling to the masthead or travel slowly across the deck, casting its glow across wet ropes and worried brows. Sailors would stop what they were doing mid-haul or mid-prayer and just watch. Some whispered that the light was made of jelly, alive and ominous. Others said it was a sign from the heavens. Spanish sailors, in particular, were said to drop to their knees in prayer when they saw it, crossing themselves for luck, for mercy, or for survival. But as with all things sea-bound, the meanings of the lights shifted depending on who was telling the story. On the Isle of Man, lights seen over the water were believed to presage death, especially when hovering over a recently drowned body. On the River Dee, it was said that the drowned faithful would be revealed by flickering lights guiding searchers to the, quote, lion of the body. But then two lights burning close together, this meant fair weather or good luck. Elsewhere, sailors gave the lights names like Feu de Helene, St. Hermes' fire, St. Nicholas's fire. Each variation carried its own lore. If the flame came in pairs, it meant good fortune. If it burned alone, it was a warning. 5 lights seen together? The Portuguese called this the Cora de Nossa Senhora and believed it meant the worst of the storm had passed. One English dictionary from 1701 claimed that the fires danced about instead of remaining fixed. It was a sign of bad weather to come. Quote, if the fire flies about, the entry read, it is according to them a sign of foul weather. German sailors believed the lights to be the spirits of a dead count. Like Dracula?
I don't know.
If it rose upward, it brought good omens. If it descended, especially if it shone directly into a person's head, it foretold death. Some called it the soul of the shipwrecked sailor, trying to warn others of thunder and lightning. Many believed it to be a soul trapped in purgatory, reaching out the only way it could. If 3 lights appeared, it was called Saint Anne, and her presence was even a darker omen. The light in other traditions was called Talonia, a demon tax collector. I'm sorry.
A demon tax collector?
Who latched onto vessels to extract a toll to get to the boys' hole. A pig on board might drive it away with its unholy squeals, but few had that protection. There's a haunting story recorded by a traveler aboard a Spanish ship in 1805. One night he heard cries of St. Elmo and St. Anne echoing from the rigging. The men had abandoned their posts, the sails were loose, and there on deck the crew knelt bareheaded in the moonlight. Hands lifted skyward, praying to the saints they could not see, begging the glowing light for mercy. Authors like Cheevers and Dana described it as a mass phosphorescent jelly that clung to the mast and rigging, silent but menacing. Dana wrote of a ball of light clinging to the top of the main top gallant mast, slowly descending to the fore-top gallant, then to the flying jib boom. If the corposant rises, sailors say, it means good weather. If it falls, it foretells a storm. But if the light, pale and flickering, should shine directly on your face, well, that's said to mean you won't see another sunrise. Others spoke of the lights leading men to suicide, drawing them like moths to the other side. The corposants were feared and revered, known by many names, St. Helene, St. Hermes, St. Clair, St. Peter, and St. Nicholas. In one Welsh tale, passengers in a coach saw flickering lights hovering by the road. Days later, many drowned in that same spot. It confirmed their belief in corpse candles, these glowing signs of death sent ahead of time to show where the body would fall. Even the French sailors had their own myths. They said Satan himself built a ship, a monstrous 3-mast thing carved from trees of hell, smelling of sulfur and soaked in sin. Its sails carried the souls of the damned, and the devil laughed and laughed every time a new sinner was thrown into the hold. Until finally St. Elmo, enraged by the devil's mockery, struck the ship with divine force. The hull cracked open, the devil barely escaped, and using the broken mast as a toothpick and the mainsail as a handkerchief. But the ship, it still burns. And they say on dark nights, when the sky is too still and the air is too warm, you can still smell sulfur and see the glow and hear the harm rise. climbing towards the stars.
Creepy. Creepy paper.
Creepy paper.
Yeah. So the Death Voyage, Isles of the Blessed and the Waters of the Beyond. There's an old Greek word often etched into tombs. It's called euploia. It's kind of like anemoia, right?
Euploia.
It means a favorable voyage. I wonder if that's on the dictionary of constant sorrows or whatever the fuck that. Remember that dictionary that we got anemoia from?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I
I don't
wonder
know.
if that's on there. I gotta check that out. It means favorable voyage, and to die in this belief system was not to end, but to embark. Kind of like you getting on that ferryman's boat and going across the water to the next phase of the afterlife or something, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
The final breath marked not a fall into the void, but the unmooring of the soul set adrift towards something else. Even now, in some parts of Greece, families lay a pair of oars atop the grave, symbolic paddles for the journey to come. It's a belief that drifts across oceans and cultures, death as a voyage. Also, I think it's very prominent in the Mexican culture as well because they do the coins over the eyes and did you ever see Coco? It's so cute. You have to see that movie.
I think is that where he like plays? He's
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
guitar. Yes, I've seen that
Yeah,
one.
so cute. And the sea, always the sea, as the final threshold to cross. Whether we're speaking of the river Styx or the dark Acheron or even the wide Atlantic itself, the soul must traverse water to reach its destination. And sometimes it's an island, sometimes a continent. Nearly always it lies westward in that ancient direction of the sun's descent, of endings, of sleep, and of passing. And beyond that water, the stories speak of paradise, the Isles of the Blessed, the land of souls, a place where the lost or the saved might dwell in peace. Every age, every culture seems to have some version of it. These mystical islands, shrouded in mist or sunlight, lying just beyond the reach of living men. The Celts had Tir nan Nog, the Norse had Valhalla across the sea, and the Polynesians believed in canoe burials, sending their dead paddling toward the spirit isles. I know in Hindu culture, they also burn the dead in like pyres, and they set the bodies afloat on the Ganges River. That's a big thing in Hindu culture as well. But it's a beautiful idea, isn't it? That the last thing we hear might be the creak of a wooden hull or the soft dip of an oar and the hush of waves carrying us home.
So now let's talk about the Flying Dutchman and the sentient ships that whisper back. Of all the ghost stories whispered across the waves, none are as chilling or iconic as the Flying Dutchman. The tale goes like this. A Dutch captain, proud and defiant, swore he would round Cape Horn, which is South America, no matter the storm. When the gales turned violent and his crew begged for a harbor, he laughed, puffed his pipe, and hurled their pleas overboard. Even when the Holy Spirit itself descended on his ship, he drew a pistol, firing at the vision, and struck his own hand numb. So did he fire at the Holy Spirit and in doing so numbed his hand?
I guess so.
Okay. And so he was cursed, condemned to wander the sea forever, never able to reach his home port, never able to die. To see the Flying Dutchman is to be doomed yourself. They who see her never reach the shore, sailors would mutter. Heaven help the ship near which that demon sailor steers. Whittier wrote of a similar phantom, the specter ship of Salem, crewed by the dead, drifting in the morning fog, a 17th century bark bound for England carrying a strange man and a beautiful girl. Passengers so unsettling, some believe them to be demons. The ship left port on a Friday. It never returned. That's why you're not supposed to set sail on Friday. We've learned this.
This might be the story that's in my One Night in Salem book.
Okay, I still want to hear how it's written in your book.
Yeah. I'll still do it. But like, I'm like, this sounds familiar. This might be the one that I'm gonna.
So it never arrived, but after a 3-day storm, she returned. The boat returned. Just long enough to be seen drifting, then vanishing once more into the mist. Phantom ships didn't stop there. In 1647, a vessel departed from New Haven. It was never heard from again, but weeks later, after a thunderstorm, a ship like hers was spotted, sailing upriver against the wind. She shimmered, then slowly faded, disappearing before the eyes of the watchers on shore. The vision was so striking it was preached from the pulpit, a heavenly warning of her fate. These spectral vessels, they come without warning, without wind. They are seen in calm waters and tempests alike. And always they arrive bearing a message, though often too late to heed. If they appear before a storm, some say it's a sign that the air is filled with wrath. Others believe these ghostly ships are no more than the sea's answer to the land's wild huntsman or headless horseman, restless spirits forced to ride. Sometimes the phantom ship is seen in the company of the wild huntsman himself, or lit by flickering blue fire, the corpse light. A wandering soul, the seven whistlers too, cry warnings on the wind. Sailors hear them and know a storm follows close behind. The ship becomes a symbol, not only of death, but of punishment, a soul damned to roam the waves, a bark of the dead, faring souls across the water of the beyond. And perhaps strangest of all, some of these ships move on their own accord, no sails, no crew, sometimes they even speak. There's an old tale of the Argo, built by Argus, son of Phrixus. At its prow was a plank of scarred oak from the grove of Dodona, and it could talk. Oh, yeah, like in Jason and the Argonauts. Okay, yeah, cool. It warned, it guided, it spoke prophecy to those wise enough to listen. In Iceland, they speak of the skipamal, speaking ships that groan even in still water. To some, it's only creaking wood, but to others, the few who understand it, it is a language, a lament, a whisper of fate. Sailors have long believed their ships are alive. A ship that is about to sink, they say, screams. It groans like a dying animal. I believe that.
Oh my God.
She is not, quote, a painted ship on a painted ocean. She's a living being. One captain in Cochin, China, went so far as to punish his boats, putting them in stocks if they refused to sail properly. So he like chained them up.
Oh, okay. Like an animal?
I guess so. It takes like a little whip to him, like, be a bad ship. Even eggshells, it said, could be used to sail by witches. Tiny, mystical boats that crossed oceans at night. That's why so many break their eggshells after breakfast to keep witches from using them. Interesting. And still, in parts of Iceland, sailors warn, never remove the nails from a ship in one piece. Always break them in two. Otherwise, Satan might build a new ghost ship from your wreckage, a ship of the line, forged from the bones of the faithful and doomed to wander. That's so spooky.
That is very spooky. Let's talk about offerings, sacrifices, and briny superstitions. Are we talking like capers?
Like the brine on a...
I love me some capers. I can put that shit on everything. What does it mean to sail at the mercy of something greater? For the ancient mariner, the answer was simple. You give, you offer, and you sacrifice. Before the age of engines or weather satellites, the ocean was a living spirit. Sometimes God, sometimes Damon. Sailors, ever superstitious, learned quickly the sea must be fed. A bottle of wine over the bow, a lock of hair, a whispered prayer, a lamb, a sun. So I guess they would throw shit overboard to appease the sea gods, it sounds like, right?
There's a lot of shit at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh my goodness. Idomeneus, king of Crete, vowed to Neptune that he would sacrifice the first living thing he saw if the gods brought him through the storm alive. When he reached shore, the first one to greet him was his own child, and he kept his word. That same instinct shows up everywhere, across continents, across centuries. In the South Seas, it was once custom to cast a new fishing net, only after a sacrifice on the sand. In Iceland, fishermen would pour out brandy into the waves. And on the Argo, Jason offered oxen with honey, flour, and oil before setting sail. And even in more modern times, river sailors tossed bread or salt into the water when a man was drowned. A final meal, a peace offering. And sometimes the offering is quiet. A fox's tail passed over a threshold, a bundle of food dropped off the side, or a song. Other times, it's more visceral, a black lamb given to the spirits of the storm, or the entrails of an animal read for omens. Cicero said that Roman generals sailing for war were expected to offer a victim to the waves. Eat the offering, the logic went, and you eat the omen. Even today, a few traditions persist. Norwegian sailors once baked cakes for the sea gods, tossing them onto frozen waters only to watch a hand reach up from a hole in the ice and seize them.
Ooh.
There are stories from Malta where wives would walk the shoreline, flinging silver coins over their shoulders, whispering for their husband's safe return. One woman even vowed to donate the very sail that saved her to the church, and she did. Even more curious, on the island near St. Mulvey, every spring, families brought malt to be brewed into ale. One man was chosen to wade into the sea at night, holding the ale in both hands. He'd call out to the tide, "We give you this cup in hopes you'll give us seaweed to nourish our fields." Then he'd throw the drink into the waves, turn back towards shore, and join the others in church. A strange mingling, part folk magic, part Catholic ritual, part briny contract. It wasn't always blood that the sea required. Sometimes it was hair, like Sally, right? That was considered her ultimate sacrifice. And we're like, it's just hair,
That's
though.
it.
But I mean, I guess in some cases, hair is enough of a sacrifice. Or it says, or salt, or cloth, or beer. A reminder, sacrifice didn't always mean loss. Sometimes it meant gratitude. Survived a shipwreck, cut your hair. Burn your cloak, cast your silver ring into the tide. And that's strange because in kind of two instances in practical magic, right? Sally cut her hair, and then in another, not in the books, but like in the movie, Jillian threw cast the ring into the fire, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that is kind of seeing the parallels there. They say that to travel across the sea, one must make peace with it first. Because out there, past the headlands, the sea remembers everything. Every promise, every plea, every price. And probably every sacrifice.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you read river sailors tossed bread or salt into the water when a man was drowned. So like they've already lost the guy and then they just throw salt at him? Like they're not going to try to save him?
Right. Yeah.
Does that just make the river animals come and eat him like faster?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, like, are they attracted to salt? I would think they, if they want something to come eat him faster, then they would like toss out like some kind of like guppy or some kind
They're
of other
throwing
fish.
in lamb. They're
Like,
throwing oxtail
what do they
out
call
there.
it? Chum or something?
Chum. Yeah, chum
Yeah,
bucket.
chum bucket.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a superstition that you're not supposed to change the name of a ship. So let's talk about the names of ships, breaking the tradition of breaking a bottle on the bow and burning the past. There's a reason sailors take naming a ship so seriously. It's not just a label, it's a bond. A name carves the vessel into the ledger of the sea. Oh, I like that. Ancient Greek mariners often chose goddesses to christen their ships. Romans favored the names of their deities, the Santa Maria, the Holy Ghost, the Jesus of Hawkins Fleet. Even when Magellan returned to Seville, his crew performed penance barefoot, shirts off, holding tapers of Our Lady of Victory. You didn't just sail a ship, you sailed a prayer. But names are sacred, and changing one is dangerous. To rename is to confuse the sea gods. It's like trying to sneak past Neptune by slipping on a false mustache, okay? Worse yet, or it's like putting a mannequin in your passenger seat to try to use the HOV lane. You know what I mean? Worse yet, it might anger the sea. A vessel once baptized by salt and champagne takes on its own spirit, and spirits don't like to be messed with. If renaming is absolutely necessary, the old name must be erased, burned, scattered, stripped on every surface. The ashes cast into the tide at dusk. Only then, after the purge, may a new name be spoken aloud, the wind gods appeased, the bottle smashed, the new identity sealed. And yes, the champagne must break. If it doesn't, that's a very bad sign. I have seen videos where they're like, they just keep throwing it and nobody can get it to break. I don't know. I don't know what the science is behind it. It's not science, it's superstition, right?
Yeah.
The Greeks once greased their launchways with blood. The Vikings, they tied prisoners to the skids. Oh my God, letting the hull crush them into the sea as an offering. That's crazy.
That's horrible.
Later, wine took the place of blood, then champagne for prestige. And still today, we watch the bottles fly and shatter, modern echoes of ancient rites. Okay, next time you're at a family dinner, that is your zombie Jesus like work in. Like, hey, did you know like before the champagne bottles, they use wine, but before wine, they use blood.
It's so hardcore.
Even fishing nets weren't safe from ceremony. English fishermen salted their lines to ward off curses. Sardinian fishermen smoked theirs with sacred wood, spun with the sun. There were Catholic feasts where effigies of Judas were hung from the ship rigging, cut down, burned, and tossed to the sea, followed by hymns to the Virgin Mary. Because to begin a voyage, you don't just pick your gear, you honor the deep. Sometimes coins were hidden beneath the ship's mast, placed there like a secret offering, a bribe for fate. If the mast is ever replaced, another coin must go with it. Gold earrings served a similar purpose, meant to pay for the proper burial. Charon's fare across the river Styx. The sea has a memory. It remembers names, blood, oaths, and doesn't forgive easily, so we christen with reverence. We launch with wine, not blood. We rename, if ever, by fire and full moon. Because once the hull meets the water, you're not just sailing, you're being watched. by the gods.
It's like when like people adopt pets and like the pets come with the name from like the shelter and then people rename it and I'm like that's weird though.
I feel like if it's a kitten, you're all right, but if it's like a grown-ass
Yeah.
animal, you
Right.
might want to
Yeah.
stick with the name.
The veil thins on All Hallows Eve, and sailors have always known it. Among French fishermen, both All Hallows and All Saints' Day were marked with superstition. Men refused to cast off on those nights because those who did were said to see double. Their nets pulled up not fish but phantoms, a skeleton, a winding sheet, an omen of death disguised in the shape of ordinary toil. They spoke of a ghost ship. Its sails black, its deck lined with the souls of the drowned. It was said this bark drifted into harbors unseen only on that haunted night. And worse, there were tales of a carriage, heard, not seen, rolling through the mists at midnight, drawn by 8 white horses, 8 white dogs racing ahead. If you heard it, you were marked. If you saw it, you were doomed. The voices of drowned sailors filled the air, their laments tangled in the rigging of the living. Omens weren't just folklore, they were warnings passed down across generations. A charm worn to ward off the sea's hunger. An image painted on a hull to trick the spirits. Superstition was on its own kind of map, because in the end, luck may just be a whisper, but at sea, even whispers can turn the tide.
This chapter is about the drowned, the drowning, and other maritime superstitions. So a simple truth is that the sea was seen as both a giver and a taker of life. Most sailors couldn't swim, actually. Drowning wasn't just a fear, it was an expectation. Even bathing in the ocean was considered tempting fate. If someone went overboard, there wasn't always an attempt to save them. They just threw salt at them. It was often said that what the sea wants, the sea will have. If a sailor died on board, the body was stitched into a shroud, usually by the sailmaker, who would run the final stitch through the nose of the person to make sure that they were actually dead. The body was then committed to the sea. Keeping a corpse on board was seen as extremely unlucky, and even worse, having an empty coffin on board. That meant someone would eventually have to fill it.
Ooh, that's eerie.
Yeah. Superstitions around omens were everywhere. Sharks following a ship, that meant death was near. Ringing sounds, especially bells or a wine glass, were thought to forecast funerals. Bells were only safe when used officially on the ship. If they rang on their own, someone was going to die. Sailors believed that people often died on the ebb of the tide, as if life was being pulled away with the sea. A red sunrise or rogue wave might spark panic, and if birds like gulls or albatrosses were killed, it was considered an offense against the soul or dead sailors. The idea was immortalized in Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. The term Jonah referred to anyone or anything. That brought bad luck. It could be a crew member with a cursed past, an unlucky item like a black bag, or even an entire ship. The name comes with the biblical story of Jonah, who tried to flee his divine mission and caused a massive storm at sea. Once he was thrown overboard, the sea calmed. A powerful metaphor and a real reason to toss someone off ship if things start going wrong.
Damn,
Yeah.
so like Samuel Diaz was pretty sick with that breakbone fever. I'm surprised they didn't toss his ass overboard if that was considered like, you know, a no-no to be that sick on a ship.
Yeah. He's the captain's son, though. Come on.
Yeah.
Nepotism.
Nepotism is a no baby.
The list of bad omens gets longer. Stepping aboard with your left foot first, that's bad luck. Seeing rats leaving the ship, get off, she's going down. Dropping a hatch upside down meant a sinking ship. And the mere mention of certain words like pig, drown, or even goodbye was strictly forbidden. And it wasn't just words. Redheads, bananas, a banana tree,
Banana tree.
whistling, and even women on board were said to bring trouble.
So Jillian would not be allowed on a ship. Faith was a redhead, right?
Yeah. Ooh,
Interesting.
shit.
Yeah.
Whistling challenged the wind and might summon a storm. Bananas spoiled other fruit, attracted pests, and were blamed for the ship's vanishing during Caribbean trades. Women, once considered a distraction that angered sea gods, were thought to bring chaos on deck. Ironically, naked women were carved into the figureheads to calm the sea, that piece at the front of the boat, a contradiction that somehow made sense in superstitious logic of sailors. Redheads, again, were avoided entirely, apparently. If you ran into one on your way to the dock, you had to speak first or risk misfortune.
So
What?
Faith was like a double whammy though, because didn't we talk about before? Babies were also considered to have unlucky. So a red-headed baby?
Maybe
That's
it negates itself.
Oh, like
Cancels it
Aries,
out.
double Aries.
Yeah. Click on this link. I saw this the other day.
What is
It's
this?
just, it was on TikTok. It's a guy in a boat eating a banana.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, you're not supposed to have bananas on the boat.
It says, dude broke the one rule. I
Yeah.
thought that was cute.
I never knew that before. And Avi, he goes fishing once or twice a year with his buddies, and one of his friends, he's like the dumb friend that everybody makes, all the other friends make fun. Don't put this in, but but
They give shit to
kind of
all the time.
oblivious to things like that. And
Uh-huh.
he was eating a banana on. He brought a banana, and they were like, "You better not let the fucking captain see that shit."
Wow. Yeah, it's still like a modern thing today. That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. So tradition, I guess, superstition, it carries on through the years, but
Tradition.
yeah, I had no idea. And then he told me that. I was like, I wouldn't have known that either. I would have brought a whole friggin' case of
A
banana.
bushel.
I
You
would have
would
brought
have
my
put a
whole
banana
banana tree.
tree.
Just dragging my banana tree to the boat.
I just see it like in your backpack
Yeah,
as
just
your
sticking
umbrella.
out. Isn't that that song from Beetlejuice? Isn't that called the Banana Boat or something like that? Like,
Jump in the
come, Mr.
line.
Tallyman, tally me banana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good song.
it is a good
What's
song.
that song about?
Bananas?
Okay, we'll look it up
I don't
later.
know. The
You should show this
Tallyman.
video to Avi and be like, do you see the problem? So to protect themselves, sailors would come up with charms too. Throwing old shoes into the sea, nailing a horseshoe to the mast, or placing a coin under the main mast, all served as tokens of luck for safe passage. The coin tradition even has roots in Greek mythology, meant to pay the ferrymen to guide the soul in the afterlife. There were also days you simply didn't sail. Fridays were bad luck, blamed on the crucifixion of Christ. Thursdays belonged to Thor, god of storms. And then there were certain dates tied to biblical tragedies, like the first Monday of April or December 31st, were absolutely off limits. Some captains refused to leave port except on Sundays, seen as the luckiest day to sail. All these beliefs, some ancient, some recent, created a whole worldview, a way to make sense of chaos. Because when you're out in deep water, cut off from land, there's only one rule that matters: survive. Spitting into the ocean before setting sail was thought to bring good luck. Pouring a little wine on deck, same thing. A small offering to whatever forces might be watching. Boarding with your right foot was mandatory. The left foot, unlucky. So much so that flat-footed people, just like redheads, were avoided entirely. I
Damn.
know,
So
that's
you got flat feet? Sorry, you can't board this boat.
sorry. There's so many like rules.
I know, it's wild.
Sharks, they weren't just sea creatures. If a shark is following your ship, sign of death. Of course, the real reason was probably just food scraps tossed overboard or the bodies. But
Mm.
try telling that to a crew haunted by the sound of jaws slicing through black waters.
Yo, I don't like shark movies.
I don't like shark movies either.
Like Jaws and that movie, what was it, Open Water? Fuck that movie. But I have to say, Sharknado, top notch.
Okay. All
Top
right.
tier. Top tier
Got everything.
acting by Tara Reid.
Tara Reid.
Remember her?
Dang.
Sharknado. Fantastic.
So this list of taboos continues. Flowers were banned from ships, too closely tied to funerals. If your sweetheart tried to send you off with a bouquet, it got tossed straight into the sea. Same for clergy. Priests and ministers were rarely welcome on board. Their presence echoed last rites and burials, ominous symbols of sailors trying to avoid watery graves. Even animals came with warnings, rabbits and salmon on board. That was enough to turn the boat around. Sailors would rather skip a day of fishing than tempt fate. But oddly enough, a child born at sea was a sign of good luck. Go figure. Now, here's one I love for its sheer absurdity. Sailors were warned not to shave, not to trim their nails, or cut their hair while on board.
Is that why they all have those big ass bushy beards
And
and
why they all have fucking lice?
pirate hair? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Dreadlocks, Captain Jack Sparrow style.
Yeah, so I guess it might bring bad luck, which explains all the scraggly beards and long nails and all the old paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, traces of these old superstitions remain. You might still hear an old-timer spit before stepping on board, or be told seriously not to bring any bananas on board. Then there's the line crossing ceremony, a wild ritual that marks a sailor's first crossing of the equator. This tradition shows up in navies around the world, including the US Navy, Royal Navy, and Canadian Navy. It's part hazing, part rite of passage. First-time crossers are called pollywogs, and they get put through the ringer, sometimes literally, crawling, costume contests, kissing the quote royal baby, who's usually a crew member with a belly covered in axle grease.
What?
Even being subpoenaed to appear before King Neptune and Davy Jones. I'm guessing other
So,
sailors dressed up.
okay. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, so what does that mean exactly? Because
Yeah.
those aren't real people.
Once the ordeal is over, they are reborn as shellbacks, trusted sons of Neptune. And yeah, they get certified to prove it. Even President Franklin D. Roosevelt went through it aboard the SS Indianapolis in 1936. He described it as a 2-day initiation complete with court appearances, pageantry, and some very memorable outfits.
I wonder if they had any boiled salad.
You mean the tripping balls?
A Jimson weed on board.
Oh, I'm sure.
Moxie busting the entire below deck. Could you imagine that?
No. That makes me claustrophobic.
No. Yeah, I know.
No. So, in the Bible, Psalms 107 says, "They go down to the sea in ships that do business in great waters. These see the works of the Lord and his wonders of the deep." For centuries, that verse carried comfort, something to whisper during storms when the sea rose up in a fury and the wind howled through the rigging. The hymn, Eternal Father, Strong to Save, was inspired by the same song, a song still sung in Navy chapels and memorials today. Because if the sea is anything, it's humbling. And superstition, well, that's how sailors learn to pray with one eye open. I will add in that Nearer My God to Thee
Mm-hmm.
that they played when the Titanic sank,
Oh.
right? That song makes me tear up. My great grandmother had that playing at her funeral, and I remember
Aw.
walking in with my grandpa in the back. Everybody was like taking their seats, and I like reached for my grandpa's arm, and that song started playing, and I was like
Oh my God.
bawling. And then I was like 16 when she died. And then years later, hung out with grandpa a lot, and we had talked about that day, and he was like, "That is a song I would like played at my funeral."
Oh wow.
We did. And I was like, "This is amazing." So that song's very near and dear to me. For
That's
sure.
so that's the one that the string, I guess, the string quartet or whatever it was. That's what
Yes.
they played at the as they were, I guess, getting all the women and children into the boats and as
Yes.
the ship was going down.
I was like, "I got
That's
you, Grandpa.
insane.
I got
Yeah.
you. You want this? You got it."
Yeah.
I think he knew that fact too. He
Did
was
he?
such like a well-read guy he only had a fourth grade education, but he
He knew
read
his
so many books,
history.
and he was like
Yeah.
he that's what touched my heart so much, because like the song started playing at great grandma's funeral, and I had his arm, and he leans down, he's like, "Did you know they played this as the Titanic went down?"
Oh my
I was
God.
like, "I did." So cute.
Did he ever see the movie
I don't think
Titanic?
so. Nah,
It's cute.
it's cute.
It's a good memory to
It
have.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chips.
So, so we're gonna get back into, we talked about sailor tattoos a little bit on, was it our water episode? I don't remember. One of our recent episodes.
Arrow.
Barrow, that's right. Yeah, so Inked by the Sea, Sailor Tattoos, and the Power of Symbol. So now, if you really wanted to stack the deck in your favor before going to sea, you didn't just spit over the side or avoid flowers, you got a tattoo. Old school mariners were some of the earliest believers in the magic of permanent symbols. Tattoos weren't just a decoration, they were talismans, shields, and a way of telling the universe, I know the rules, I've paid the price, please let me live. And some of them were deeply specific. As we've talked about before on this podcast, pretty sure, like if you're trying to manifest something, you have to be very specific because the universe has a wicked sense of humor and it can twist things around on you if you are not.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am. Yes.
Exactly. So you might see a sailor with a pig on one foot and a rooster on the other. Odd, right? But here's the logic. Pigs and roosters, often kept in wooden crates, were among the only animals to survive a shipwreck. The crates floated, and the livestock floated, so sailors tattooed those creatures on their feet, hoping that the gods would take mercy, spot the animals, and lift them up to safety too. Others went for a nautical star or a compass rose inked on the forearm or the chest, and these weren't aesthetic choices. They were prayers, and these symbols pointed toward home, and sailors believed they'd guide them safely back again. Some got anchors, and this was thought to help them stay grounded and spiritually sure, but also literally, if they fell overboard, the anchor would help them hold, or quote, hold close to the ship, tethered by the ink and its magic.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that too. And then there's one of our favorites, the the words, quote, hold fast, tattooed across a sailor's knuckles. And it wasn't about gripping a rope tighter. It was about holding fast to life and to sanity, to purpose in the chaos of the sea, especially when you were up in the rigging, high above the deck in a storm, with nothing between you and a 40-foot plunge but your grip and your guts. But tattoos weren't just superstition. They were memory and culture, where each inked image told a story of ports visited, storms survived, people left behind. Should I get a tattoo to commemorate the storms I just fucking survived?
What would you get? Like the Jetta symbol?
I don't fucking know. Yeah, Volkswagen. I don't know. They were a flip flop, maybe.
Oh,
They were worn like armor, written in
I
paint.
know.
Yeah,
What was the lady's name that helped you?
Mona
Mona. Have Mona and a heart on your shoulder.
and a mermaid.
Cute.
Mona's the mermaid that saved my life that day, and I was never the same again.
Justina's got like a full beard now. She has her toenails.
What was that scene from Pee Wee Herman where she's like, the sound of a garbage truck falling off the Empire State Building? Large Marge.
I still think about that scene with the snakes you sent me because I'd never seen it before. I have not cried that hard since.
You need to watch that entire movie. That entire movie is a masterpiece. Please
I
watch
want
it.
to watch it together.
Oh
That
my
and
God.
Coraline. I want to watch those together.
Yes, please. So yeah, the tattoos, they weren't just superstition. They were part of their memory, part of their culture, and they were almost like an armor, right? Written in pain and pride across the skin. And during World War II, aboard ships like the USS New Jersey, tattoos became a part of shared visual language. Anchors, swallows, names, dates, and battles, all inked in black and blue under the hum of a needle. A sailor didn't have to say a word. His arms told a story. And here's the thing. When you're constantly staring down storms and shipwrecks and the sheer unknowable vastness of the ocean, you start to believe in symbols, not out of weakness, but survival. So have you ever seen an old sailor with a pig and a rooster on their ankles, or the, quote, hold fast across his knuckles? Know this. That's a sailor who came prepared.
I love being prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this isn't so much mythology, but I find this fascinating how much of our day-to-day language comes from nautical lingo. And I heard some NPR thing. I was in college and I just thought it was the most fascinating bit of information ever. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about the language of the sea and how it's left this indelible mark on the way we speak today. Because many of the phrases we casually use every day are rooted in this rich tradition of seafaring, echoing the lives of the sailors who navigate the world's oceans centuries ago. This list was like 100 plus. I only highlighted a few that Justina's going to tell you about. But first, did you know why mothers tell their children not to keep their elbows on the table?
No, I don't.
Well, because back in the day, having your elbows on the table, sailors would do that to keep their plates from sliding on the table. So, like, if boats came into port and recruiters were looking for young guys to recruit, the mothers say, get your elbows off the table, so they wouldn't be like first picking. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that kid knows
Okay.
how to keep his plate on the table.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where that comes from. And that's
Interesting.
what I heard on that NPR thing. I was like, oh my goodness, how interesting. Also, there's a common saying that many people that they don't necessarily get it wrong, is right either way, but the term jerry-rigged, we say like something's jerry-rigged, but the actual term is jury-rigged. Jury rigged. So meaning that something is temporarily or hastily repaired or constructed, especially in a makeshift or improvised way, usually on a ship. So jury rigged is originally a nautical slang term dating back to at least the 18th century. Jury in this case is thought to come from the Old French ajurer, which meaning help or relief. A jury mast, for example, was an improvised mast put in place of the original that was damaged. So like the usage could be the radio was jury rigged with spare wires and duct tape held together more by hope than hardware, right? Where the confusion comes in is where that we get jerry-rigged is from jerry-built, which is kind of the same thing. It comes from the 19th century in Britain, but jerry-built means like poorly constructed with cheap or shoddy material, implying bad workmanship, not just improvisation. Dates back to the mid-19th century Britain. The origin of jerry is unclear, but it's likely referred to as a slapdash or unscrupulous builder. So like the usage is that sheds nothing but a jerry-built mess. Looks like it fall down in the next stiff breeze. So I
If
always thought
you
that's kind of cool how like language gets melded together like that.
Right. A
Yeah.
more modern version of that would be like MacGyver. Do you remember
Yeah.
MacGyver? Like how he would just like put a paperclip and a thumbtack together and get you out of handcuffs or some shit. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he would like do some weird shit on that show. Didn't they just remake that with Will Ferrell and they called it like MacGruber or some shit?
Yeah. Was it a satire? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it was.
I want to watch that one.
So
Yeah.
funny. So talking about more common phrases with a nautical origin. So the next one is bottoms up. A cheerful toast today. This phrase has darker origins. So during an era when unsuspecting men were tricked into naval service, recruiters would slip a coin into the bottom of a beer glass. If the drinker accepted the beer and the coin, they were deemed to have, quote, accepted payment and were forcibly pressed into the Royal Navy. So, quote, bottoms up became a way to check for coins before drinking, a habit that lingers as a social tradition. The next one is by and large. So, by and large is used to mean, quote, in general or on the whole, and this phrase comes from nautical terminology where it is used to describe the 2 points of sailing, quote, by the wind and, quote, large. To sail by the wind is to sail as close to the wind as possible, while to sail large is to sail as far from the wind as possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This next one we all use, right? Clean slate. So on board a ship, the watchkeeper used a slate tablet to record the vessel's speeds, headings, and other important details during their shift. At the end of a trouble-free watch, the slate was wiped clean, ready for the next crew. Today, quote, starting with the clean slate means beginning anew without baggage from the past. And we all use that one. I know I
Yeah.
do. The next one is cup of joe, right? We all know cup of joe. This phrase, synonymous with coffee, likely originated in the U.S. Navy. In 1914, Secretary of the Navy Josephus Daniels banned alcohol on naval vessels, replacing rum and beer rations with coffee. Sailors unimpressed with the substitution nicknamed it a, quote, cup of Josephus or Josephus, later shortened to cup of joe. Whether fact or legend, the phrase endures as a tribute to the American sailors' caffeinated mornings. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
The ration per man that they were allowed to have alcohol wise, insane. No one, they were all they'd be drunk all the time. It was like 2 pints of rum, 2 pints of rum,
Yeah.
and then like 6 beers for breakfast they could have and for dinner. Something crazy like that.
Like
It's
per
wild.
day? Per day?
Per day.
Holy shit. No wonder why pirates were always drunk, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
Yeah. What's his fucking face? Captain
This
Jack
is
Sparrow?
the time, Captain Jack Sparrow.
Where's the rum gone? Is that what he says? So the next one is down in the doldrums. And this phrase originated in the 1800s to describe the calm, windless waters near the equator, a region known as the doldrums. Found between the trade winds, this area often left ships stranded for weeks, unable to move. So sailors stuck in the stifling heat and monotony began to associate the doldrums with feelings of stagnation and low spirits. And today, the term captures that sense of being stuck or unmotivated, whether mentally or physically.
Nice.
So we've all been there. Next one is is it flotsam? Or in Little
Yeah, like
Mermaid, it sounds like she says fletsam, right?
Flotsam, jetsam. I just
Flotsam
watched
and-
the live action one. I
Yeah.
liked it. It was
Was it
getting a
good?
lot of shit. It was
Well,
good.
I heard the fish and stuff were creepy.
The fish were fine. I don't give
Yeah.
a shit. I thought the singing was good. There were some new songs. Melissa McCarthy did a great job. I know her makeup got like a lot of flack,
Yeah.
but she had the good like raspy and she did the accent and I was like, I like
Okay.
this. I like
I
this.
have not seen that, and I also have not seen the new live action Snow White either, but I've heard that one got really bad.
Oh yeah, that one got real bad. Yeah.
I kind of want to watch both just to like, pick it apart and
Yeah.
be a hater, but yeah. But flotsam and jetsam, these maritime terms originally referred to goods lost at sea. So flotsam described items accidentally lost from a wrecked ship, while jetsam referred to goods deliberately thrown overboard to stabilize a vessel. Today, the term flotsam and jetsam describes things of little value, often scattered or discarded. So, Ursula's henchmen, right?
Yeah, the eels.
The eels, right? The next one on this list is groggy. In 1740, Admiral Vernon, nicknamed Old Grogram for his grogram cloak. Okay, so he diluted sailors' rum rations with water to curb overindulgence. The diluted mixture was called grog, and sailors who drank too much became groggy. And the term now describes anyone feeling dazed or sluggish. That reminds me of what these kids are doing nowadays when they're like mixing water with like jungle juice. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. And like the jugs?
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
It's called something,
It
right?
is. What is it?
Okay, what is it? Borg.
Borg.
It's called
Okay.
Borg. So yeah, Borg is a mixed drink made in plastic gallon jugs, generally containing water, vodka, flavored drink mix such as Mio or Kool-Aid.
That's
Yeah.
it?
So that's what the kids are drinking now. Oh, and sometimes Pedialyte. They add like an electrolyte mix.
Wow.
Yeah. Gen Z is so extra.
They're kind of
Like
ahead of their time. It's pretty
they are
smart.
ahead of their times. Like they're hydrating and dehydrating at the same time. So it's
Right.
kind of genius. Like our generation, just like balls deep in a gallon of jungle juice and you're not waking up for 2 days.
No water.
No water, just living on a prayer.
Oh.
Hope I wake up in the morning. Yeah. I didn't know that mixing water and alcohol made you groggy. I wonder if it has that effect on these kids that are doing that nowadays.
I don't know. It must keep you in that like perfect spot, or you're just like just drunk enough. I don't know.
Coasting.
Just
Right?
coasting. Yeah.
Coasting. The next one on this list is hand over fist, once referring to the rapid action of pulling ropes on a ship. Hand over fist has evolved to mean achieving something quickly and efficiently, most often making money at a fast pace. Next one is let the cat out of the bag. We've talked about this one probably on our cat episode. This phrase has two possible origins. In the Royal Navy, the quote cat was a whip known as the cat o' nine tails, used for punishments. When the bosun's mate brought it out of its bag, it meant bad news was coming. Alternatively, the phrase may come from an old English scam in which a buyer expecting a pig in a bag was tricked with a cat instead.
Oh.
Today, quote, letting the cat out of the bag means revealing a secret or surprise. We all use that one. Next is over the barrel. It says punishment aboard a ship often involved flogging, and the condemned sailor was frequently tied over the barrel of a deck cannon to a grating or to the mast. The phrase now describes a situation where someone is at a disadvantage or entirely at another's mercy. Overbearing, this nautical term describes a ship sailing directly downwind at another vessel, stealing or diverting the wind from its sails. And figuratively, it has come to describe someone domineering or aggressively imposing their will on others. Next, we have pipe down, and this term originates from the bosun's pipe, a high-pitched whistle used by the ship's officer to issue orders to the crew. Different sound patterns signal specific instructions, and pipe down was the final order of the day, directing off-duty crew to stop talking, settle down, or head to bed. Today, the phrase retains its original meaning, used to tell someone to be quiet or calm down. Then posh. Posh, this term is thought to be an acronym for port out starboard home, referring to the most desirable cabins on ships traveling between Britain and India during the colonial era. These cabins, located on the port side on the outward journey and the starboard side on the return, were shaded from the sun's intense heat, a crucial feature in the days before air conditioning. Reserved for wealthier passengers, these accommodations gave rise to the modern use of posh.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Neither did I. Then we have rummage sale. I love a good rummage sale. This term, now synonymous with sales of second-hand items for charity or special events, originates from the French word arrimage, meaning ship's cargo. In maritime history, damaged or excess cargo was sold off in what became known as a rummage sale. And then show your true colors. This phrase refers to revealing one's true character, often in a negative light. Its origins lie in naval warfare, where ships would hoist their national flags before engaging in battle. To deceive enemies, some ships raised false flags, a tactic particularly common amongst Spanish ships in the 17th century. Once the deception was over, they would, quote, show their true colors. This practice also introduced the word bamboozle into the language.
Oh,
so I guess bamboozle doesn't mean like getting one over on someone.
Yeah. Bamboozled.
Oh, bamboozled.
That's a great word.
Yeah, that's like when I got those cartouche necklaces in Mexico.
Yeah.
It was a scam.
Yeah.
Not real obsidian.
Not real obsidian.
FYI.
No gold inside.
Definitely bamboozled there. Next we have skyscraper, originally a nautical term. A skyscraper referred to a small triangular sail set above the sky sail on tall ships to catch light winds. The term eventually entered common usage to describe the towering buildings found around the world today. All right, so slush fund. On old sailing ships, cooks collected a greasy substance called slush from boiling and scraping salt and meat barrels. This leftover fat was often sold ashore, with the profits kept by the cook or shared with the crew. These extra earnings became known as a slush fund, a term now used for money reserved for discretionary or secretive purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what they did with that slush. I guess it was just sold as like lard to cook with, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, gross.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
is gross.
know.
Yeah. At least they're not pouring it down the drains because that's not good.
They're not pouring it in the ocean.
Right, that too. I mean, like the fish would probably eat it
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
So son of a gun is the next one on this list. When ships were in port and crew members were restricted on board for extended periods, women, wives, or otherwise, were often allowed to live abroad. Occasionally, children were born on the gun deck, a convenient location between the cannons. If the father's identity was unknown, the child was recorded in the ship's log as a son of a gun.
Cute. That's kind of dope.
That one's funny. It's like shotgun wedding, right? Where did that fucking term come from?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is squared away. On square rigged ships, squared away referred to positioning the yards, horizontal bars holding the sails, at right angles to the deck, allowing the ship to catch the wind efficiently and sail smoothly. Today, the term means organizing things neatly or preparing for action. And then the bitter end. This term refers to doing something to the very end or until it is finished, no matter what. In nautical terms, the bitter end is the last part of a rope, usually the anchor rope, that is still attached to a ship. A bit is a tying post fixed to the deck of a ship, and when a rope is let out to the very end tied to a bit, it means there is no rope left.
Wow.
I didn't know that. And then 3 sheets to the wind. And this, obviously, we know this one means to be drunk. And this phrase comes from the nautical practice of using sheets or a type of rope to control a sail. If a sailor let the sheets get loose or tangled, the sail would flap wildly and the ship would wallow and lurch around, similar to a drunken sailor. Interesting. And then the last one on this list is under the weather. And this phrase, now used to describe feeling ill or unwell, originates from the challenging conditions aboard early naval vessels. Sailors assigned to the, quote, weather side of the bow, exposed to the waves, wind, and the ship's constant pitching, often finished their watch, drenched and exhausted. These sailors were said to be, quote, under the weather. And those are all from oceanindependence.com.
There were so many
Lots of them.
more. Yeah, it's crazy.
Those are a lot of the common ones probably though, right?
I thought I'd pull from like stuff we just use willy-nilly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's talk some music because we are a musically inspired Practical Magic Fandom podcast. So we got to talk about some sea shanties right now. Spelled SHANTIES. Or did I say CH or SH? You could spell it either way, or you could spell it with a Y. It doesn't matter.
The shanties.
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 Yeah.
Yo, there's a whole like TikTok niche for this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like
Yeah.
acapella, just like guys singing acapella sea shanties.
Love it. So talented.
Oh, very.
These weren't written for stage or radio. They were born on the job and rough rhythm of work. It might say this in here, but I think it's also kind of linked with the slave trade situation and the African work songs.
Okay.
I'm going to keep my hands off that. But aboard merchant ships in the 19th century, the songs helped coordinate labor. Tasks like hauling lines, raising the anchor, or turning the capstan. Everyone needed to pull at the same time and chant, shouted, or sung did the trick. According to the Library of Congress, shanties were, quote, true work songs, never sung for entertainment, always for function. And this is according to blogs.local.gov. They took many forms. Capstan shanties were long and rolling, used for anchor work where rhythm needed to be steady. Short haul shanties were punchier, built for short, powerful bursts of effort like tugging on a rope. And then there were four bitters, songs sung off duty, leaning against the four bitters of a ship, full of longing, storytelling, and homesickness. You ever see The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Marky Mark?
No.
They're in they're in a bar and there's some guys, like older guys, singing behind them in the background, like sea shanty style, and then Will Ferrell's like, hang on, it's my turn, and he gets up and he starts like singing the shanty, but he's talking about like, and all the kids got scurvy and nobody got a Christmas gift and Jimmy lost his leg. And Marky Mark's
Is that
like,
on Netflix?
Yeah, he's like,
I gotta
you
watch
really like
that.
singing these songs? He's like, they're full of fascinating, colorful history.
Lore.
Yeah.
So much lore.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. These songs weren't purely British or American. They were multicultural by nature. Crews were made up of men from across the globe. West Indian sailors, Irishmen, African Americans, Britons, even Chinese and Portuguese workers. Their rhythms mixed. Irish folk songs met African work chants. Scottish ballads met Caribbean call and response. It was a floating folk fusion, a global groove. I love that. That's so cool. The golden age of sea shanties was the mid 1800s to the early 1900s. That's when clippers and merchant ships ruled the sea, and every task was muscle powered. But with the rise of steamships and mechanical winches, the need for synchronized physical labor and the songs that accompanied it faded. By the early 20th century, the sea shanty was nearly extinct. Luckily, folklorists like Laura Alexandrine Smith began collecting them in the 1800s, preserving the lyrics and melodies before they vanished completely. Thank you,
Yeah,
Laura.
someone's gotta do it.
It's a woman, of course.
Yeah.
Later,
She's probably a Virgo.
later in the 1950s and 60s, folk revivals gave them new life. Artists like Pete Seeger and later even Stan Rogers, who I'm going to talk about shortly, brought them back on shore into pubs, festivals, and recordings. And then TikTok happened,
There we
right?
go. There
Yep, the
it is.
Wellerman. And
Yeah, that's the famous one that's floating around in there, right?
yeah. In 2021, a Scottish postman named Ethan Evans posted a video singing The Wellerman, a 19th century New Zealand whaling song. His deep voice and catchy rhythm, it just took off. Millions of views, duets, harmonies. See, Shanty TikTok was born. So why did this resonate? Maybe because after months of lockdown, we were so isolated, craving connection, coordination, call and response, just like sailors once did. As Time magazine put it, shanties were the original work from home music. That's cute.
Oh my God, it's so
So
true.
no, yeah. No, shanties aren't just about pirates or parrots. They're about labor, they're about rhythm, they're about people working in brutal conditions and finding solidarity in song. They're folk memory, their resistance. Their music made not for profit but for pulling. Heave away, me jollies, heave away. And with every verse, you can still feel the strain of the rope and the soul of the sea. I guess there are some superstitions revolving around shanties. Not every song of the sea was safe to sing. Shanties weren't just music. On board a working ship, they were a ritual, a function, protection, and if you believe the old timers, they're kind of a spell because the sea listens. Of course, the ship listens. It's a living thing, we learned. And the wrong song sung at the wrong time could stir her up. Among sailors, there was one hard rule. You never sing a work shanty off duty. Not in a tavern, not in a bunk, not unless your hands were on the line pulling hard. To break that rule meant bad luck and mockery at best, a storm or a snap mast at worst. Shanties were sacred to sweat. They were songs with a job to do. To sing one for fun was to tempt fate. And the shantyman, the one who led the song, he wasn't just loud, he was chosen, apparently. Not
Oh.
always the biggest or the strongest, but he had the rhythm in his chest and a voice that could keep 20 men in time. Some believed a good shantyman could calm a fight or calm a wind. He was a bit of a bard, a bit of a preacher, a bit of a conjurer, and if that shantyman lost his voice mid-voyage, the crew held their breath because that was an omen. Something would be lost, a man overboard, a ship sunk, a telegram waiting in port with news no sailor wanted. And then there were the songs you didn't dare sing too soon. Take Leave Her Johnny, Leave Her. A great song. That slow, bitter farewell sung when the voyage was done. Leave her, Johnny, leave her, for when the voyage is long, the winds don't blow. But to sing too early, I want to sing it, but you're not supposed to. Now I know.
But all the
I'm
people on
supposed
TikTok
to.
are singing it.
I know.
They ain't doing no boat work.
I'll pop it in the background, nice and
They're
gentle.
singing in parking garages.
That's right. But to sing it early, before the anchor dropped, before the last barrel was stowed, that was a curse. It meant the ship wouldn't make it home, or that someone aboard wouldn't. In some ports, you'd hear whispers about phantom shanties, songs drifting across the harbor with no boat in sight, usually in fog, always just out of reach. Roll the old chariot along, voices would sing. But the dock was empty, the tide still. Old sailors would tell you that's the dead still singing, a drowned crew keeping time in the mist. Even in death, they say, the work must go on. And if a sailor was buried at sea or laid to rest on land, there was sometimes a final song, a shanty sung graveside, something simple, something true. We're homeward bound, I hear them say. Because for some men, the only home they ever knew was the sea, and the shanty was the only prayer they ever trusted. And so, rounding this whole episode out, I wanted to talk about Stan the Man, Stan Rogers. I love him. I've loved him since high school.
Mhm.
If you've never heard of him, he is a Canadian folk singer. He's got this amazing baritone voice, and it's just so deep, and it feels like it could just steady any ship. I stumbled upon him very young on like Pandora,
Oh,
right? When that
nice.
was a big thing.
Yeah.
He's been on my top 3 Spotify rap basically for the last 10 years.
Wow.
His music's kind of all over the place in the best way. He could do shanties. He has like some like ragtimey stuff. He could lean into rock or waltz or old timey country, but it always sounds like him. And what makes him special to me is that he doesn't just write the songs. He wrote these songs for the people, for real people, for the working man, for the farmer, the oil rigger, the livestock cowboy, the East Coast fisherman. He wrote about their lives. That doesn't often make it into verses, you know? He did it without condescension, without smoothing those edges, just truth, grit, and grace. There's a documentary, it's very good. It's short, it's only like 35 minutes, called One Warm Line, named after the lyric in his song, Northwest Passage. It's about the Franklin expedition, a doomed expedition to find the trade route through the Arctic Circle. In this documentary, there's a scene where Stan is just sitting at a table in like a friend's house and they're playing, and all of his friends are just like pounding their feet. They've all got a beer and they're just singing. There's no stage, there's no polish, and it's just music and him singing in the way it's meant to be felt. It's one of the most moving things I've ever watched. And it breaks my heart that I'll never get to see him live because he died in his 30s tragically in a plane fire in 1983.
Am I Stan reincarnated?
I don't
No,
think so.
that was the year I was born. Am I Aquaman? Am I
Maybe.
Trisha Paytas's baby?
The sad thing is, it wasn't a plane crash. Like the
Okay.
plane was in danger. They
Oh.
landed, and Stan was helping get people off the plane that was
Oh, that's
burning, and he
sad.
was like running back in because he was huge.
Yeah, yeah.
And he died in the
That's
fire.
so sad.
It is so sad. But even now, his songs live on. There's the Stan Rogers Folk Festival held every year in Nova Scotia in his honor. I've been wanting to go for the last 5 years. But honestly, he deserves every verse, every chorus, every standing ovation he never got to hear.
Did he pass before his music like really took off?
No, I think he got to enjoy
Okay.
some stage time, and
Right.
he was pretty popular in the Canadian
Okay.
world. Yeah. He was a gifted guitar player, a sharp poetic lyricist, and a voice of the people before it was trendy to be one. There's something about how he sings. Like, he's not just telling a story, but lifting the weight of it with you. So today I wanted to spend a little time with his songs, just a couple, not just the ones everybody knows, but the ones that dig into the folklore, superstition, and the ghosts that live in the rigging and the salt. Because if you listen close, Stan Rogers doesn't just write about the sea, he wrote about the soul of it. His wife, her name is Ariel, ironically. She manages his fan website, and years ago I found her email on there and I messaged her just saying how much his music touched my life and how special it was for like folks around the world, and that it's still enjoyed today. And at the time I was nannying the two girls, the little girls, and I would play Stan Rogers for them and just let her know like the next generation, it's getting passed on to them. And she actually emailed me back, which
What'd she
was
say?
super nice. I was looking for this email. This was probably like 2011.
Uh-huh.
And she was like, it's always good to hear that like Stan's music still touches people. And it was just really, it was really
Oh,
nice. You know, not super
cute.
long or anything. There was like 2 little paragraphs of like thank you and just thank yous, which was
That's
sweet.
really cool.
You would love this first song I want to tell you about. It's called Witch of the Westmoreland.
I'm already hooked. That title is epic.
It is so good. It doesn't have like traditional verse, chorus, verse, bridge. It's a whole ass story.
Oh,
Like
wow.
beginning to end, whole ass story.
Is it kind of like, remember how we generated the AI of Vincent's song, The Girl in the Lake, or something like that? Remember?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like that kind of vibe?
I would love if you listen to this. It's a beautiful folk song.
I definitely will.
Yeah. So the lyric is, there's none but the witch of the Westmoreland can make the Halen soon. So I'll tell you about the song. This isn't about like a Disney witch. She rides a horse across moonlit waters. She heals a dying knight. She shapeshifts into a deer. This is a ballad written by Archie Fisher. I don't know if it was originally a poem or it had a tune, but it was brought to life by Stan. But it feels ancient, like something you'd find carved in like a crumpled chapel wall. A woman of power who lives beyond the lake's edge, summoning only in desperate need. She's kind of a seductress, part savior. So this like knight is like dying and he calls out to her and she comes out of the water and she's like healing him.
That's
So
eerie. I
very
love
beautiful.
it.
Yeah. The next one is Northwest Passage, which I mentioned. To find the hand of Franklin reaching
Isn't that
for
an
the
old
Gulf Sea.
show?
Hmm?
Isn't that an old show? It's kind of like not like Twin Peaks, but kind of like Twin Peaks. It was like around that era. I think that yes, it's called Northwest Passage.
Wow.
It's on the entire series, I believe, is on Amazon Prime.
Okay. I want to
Check
check
it
it out.
out.
I'm going to check it out.
It's kind of like got that same cheesy, nostalgic vibe as Twin Peaks, but it's not as dark. It's not as cerebral. It's more kind of like hokey, corny.
Okay.
It's cute. It's cute,
All right.
but it's long. We only watched like a couple episodes and we're like, yeah, I don't know if I could get into this. It's not as Twin Peaks as I thought it was going to be.
Okay. This
Yeah.
song is not about that.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a ghost story in broad daylight. Rogers reimagines himself walking in the footsteps of the doomed Arctic explorers, men who chased this passage to the Pacific and were swallowed whole by snow and ice. And still, it feels like we're reaching them. We feel like we're watching them. It's not just historical, it's haunted. There is a show called The Terror, which is freaking good. It's all about this expedition and how the mind starts fucking with you and how they started losing food and how the rations were had bacteria and they had to start
Yeah.
eating each other. I
Oh
don't know.
God.
Yes, so highly recommended.
What's the name of the show?
The Terror.
The
season
Terror.
1.
Okay. And it's about this, like what's going on in this song?
Yes.
All right, cool. That
Yeah.
too.
The next one is called Barrett's Privateers. It goes, God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. If you want to know about privateering, this is the song for you. This one's rowdy, drunken, comedic, but it's also cursed. Greenhorn joins a ramshackle crew. So like a newbie joins this ramshackle crew. The ship kind of falls apart. The captain's a fool. The mission fails miserably. He's kind of lied to, like, I was told I'd only be on the sea for this amount of time. Here I am 4 years later, basically.
Okay.
But hidden in the body lyrics is something older. A sailor's belief that some voyages are doomed from the start. Wrong moon, wrong crew, wrong name scrawled on the ledger. Barrett's Privateers is a comedy, but it sings in the key of bad luck. This one I absolutely love. It's called The Mary Ellen Carter. Rise Again are the main lyrics. In the One Warm Line documentary, they interview like local Canadian fishermen, and a fisherman said that his boat capsized in a storm with some of his men and he was just fucking floating out in the ocean. But he said to keep the morale up, he sang this song continuously, like for his men to like stay alive, and they survived. It's amazing. So this is not just a song, it's an invocation. And the Mary Ellen Carter had gone down in a storm in this story of the song. The company that owns her won't pay, the law doesn't care. But the crew, they take it on themselves to bring her back to life, rebuild her for everything she stood for. And they chant, though your heart may be broken and life about to end. It feels like spell work, like resurrection magic, like the kind of folklore where love and stubbornness pulls something or someone back from the deep. The song doesn't just tell a story, it dares death to listen. There's Make and Break Harbor. This is the last song I want to tell you about. This one is a little more sad. The lyric is, they think it don't pay to respect the old ways. This one's quieter. There's no ghosts, no witches, no storms. Just a warning that when you forget the old crafts, the old superstitions, the old tools, the old names, we lose something more than just livelihood. We lose the memory and the community and the meaning. And maybe, if you believe the old tales, we lose protection. Because folklore at its heart is a survival manual dressed in poetry. And Stan knew that. Stan's music means something different when you've lived it. And to the fishing communities of Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and British Columbia, hell, anywhere the salt gets under your nails, his songs aren't just tunes. They're testaments, they're memory. They're the sound of fathers and uncles and sons and lost crewmen and the rhythm of the hull and hope and heartbreak. You'll hear his verses in coastal taverns and old boats crackling out of old radios on early mornings when the fog hasn't lifted yet. He doesn't romanticize the work, he honors it, he names it, he sings for them, not just about them. And that's why, for so many communities, his music isn't just background noise, it's ancestral. It's the voice of someone who saw their life clearly and who sang it back with reverence. And I just adore him so, so much. He's, yeah, top three favorite
Oh,
musicians,
check
artists,
that.
storytellers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Whole catalog is amazing. His brother was the fiddle player. His brother also has music. His son also sings and sounds exactly like him.
Really?
Weird. It's so strange. Yeah.
I'll check that out. Put that on my list.
Very distinctive voice. Yes, I hope you enjoy him as much as I do.
No, I'll check that out. Put that on my list, and we'll link all that stuff in the show notes if anybody wants to check any of that out. Thank you for sharing all that. That was really cool.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
I don't think we're done with nautical, so I think we're probably gonna circle back because there's just really so much, and I think we agree that we probably also maybe want to do an episode on ships in general and the privateering and like all that stuff because there's Salem in general, like just like it was the main hub for all of that stuff. And
I don't even feel like we talked about not magic.
right, we didn't even touch that yet. That's what I'm saying. Like there's so we can go so deep on this rabbit hole, you know?
Yeah.
So for sure, we'll definitely touch back on this. That is all we have for you guys today. Just a reminder, you can check out all of the sources pertaining to today's episode via our hero page. The link is in our show notes. And thanks again to our patron and Palmiers for creating this app and keeping creators like us organized. If you guys do want to support the podcast on Patreon, you can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's our seedling tier, and that gets you access to our patron-only polls where you get to weigh in on what topics you would like us to talk about next. It also gets you our monthly calendar so you can see what topics we have coming up for the month, and it also gets you a welcome shout out on the show. Our $3 Lavender Bud tier gets you our show notes for each episode in an aesthetically pleasing PDF, our after hours posts, if there's any extra tidbits or behind the scenes info pertaining to any of our episodes, we'll post those along with a blog post or extra photos, and access to our specially curated Spotify playlists. We have created playlists for our WMSR episodes as well as Production Dream playlists for each song episode, and more. Our $5 Lilac tier gets you access to our private Facebook community where we host a monthly live stream. Plus, you'll get access to our Discord server where we host our monthly watch parties. And also on the Discord, you can join in on the discussion with other Magnolia Street neighbors via the various interesting channels and threads. And then here's the $8 Rose tier. This gets you access to extra audio visual content such as a once a month full-length video episode, unlimited bonus videos, uncut footage, cutting room floor footage, bloopers, outtakes, meditations, exclusive interviews, and old home videos from the vault, or spell or ritual videos, and more. It also gets you bonus content to coincide with our song-episodes, such as full-length demo streams of our original practical magic inspired music, plus lyric sheets, guitar chords, and original scratch demos, or bonus video performances of our songs and more. Lastly, we have our $15 Wisteria Vine tier. Just like a twisting Wisteria Vine, there's a way for you to stay connected with us, the Stinas. In this tier, we invite you to join our private Marco Polo video messaging app. The app is totally free for both Android and iOS. Sign up with your phone number or email, and we will help you do the rest. This is a great way to chat with each other in a more intimate group setting, face-to-face via video recording. We love to show each other our pets, our gardens, or anything else you'd like to share. And just a reminder that the higher the tier you sign up under, the more rewards you get, because you get all of the rewards of the tiers below it. You can upgrade or downgrade or even cancel at any time. So to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Yeah, and there are additional ways to support us and our podcast that don't cost you any money. If you do listen on Spotify, please give us a star rating. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. We love sharing those on our Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we would really appreciate any reposts or blurbs about our podcast. And make sure to tag us at Magnolia Street Podcast in your feed, posts, stories, and share us with your practical magic loving friends.
What's coming up next?
I don't know. I have no idea. I was hoping you would take care of it.
Yeah, no, I will, but I wasn't sure which one you wanted to do. Should we do another practical magic too and touch base on the news and all the stuff going on?
All right.
Because stuff's floating around on the Instagrams. Our Instagram has been popping for the past, since that extra news dropped about the casting.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Maybe we'll talk about all that next week.
Yeah. Come back next Friday for new episodes. Make sure to check out our album over on Bandcamp. It's on Spotify.
Yeah,
right?
we'll put all the links in our show notes. And also check the Patreon because we have some bonuses for this episode. We got some spooky ship stories to tell you guys.
All right.
I'm excited for that.
Until next week, I'm Christina.
I'm Justina, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Hold fast.
We should do like a sea shanty. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. I don't know.
The house on Magnolia Street. Would you go down to Magnolia Street with the wisteria wild and the house of magic and mystery? So would you go down to Magnolia Street?
I'm editing. Dude, my head hurts, but I'm dying because I'm now remembering, I think, that Salve Regina song from Sister Act. Salve Regina, Mata Mata Inta Marata, Santo Santos Dominus, Auspicia Mata, Auspicia Santo Santo Dominus. Is that Ave Maria or Salve Regina? I don't know. Hallelujah. Oh.